welcome everybody to our meeting of the Planning and Development Committee for May 13th. I believe all members of committee are present. So members of committee, there are changes to the agenda since its publication. I'll hand it over to our city clerk to read what those changes are.
Through you, Mr. Chair, members of committee, members of the public, and staff in attendance this evening. These are the changes to this evening's Planning and Development Committee agenda. Regarding item 4.1, which is a report regarding a city-initiated draft official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendments to implement the recommendations of the Bramalea Mobility Hub land use study, there are 3 pieces of correspondence that have been filed with the city from Joanna Shapira, Wood Bull, LLP, dated May 10th, from Shelley Kaufman, Turkstra Mazza Associates, dated May 13th, and from Jonathan Roger, from Zelinka Priamo Limited, dated May 13th. In regard to delegation 5.1 from various schools across the city regarding Brampton 2040 Vision Youth Symposium, there is an additional delegation from Chinguzi Secondary School, and the additional delegates are Karanjot Bhatia, Ridham Goal, William Hollis, Druville Shah, and Vivek Patel. And Mr. Chair, just for committee's information, it's not on the sheet in front of you, but there is correspondence that was received this evening, and it's identified as 13.1 from the Downtown Brampton Business Improvement Area, dated May 13th, in regard to development in the downtown. So that'll be correspondence item 13.1, and those are the changes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, City Clerk. Members of committee, are there any further additions, changes, or deletions to the agenda? No. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting? Moved by Councillor Bowman. All in favor? Carried. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest? Oh, okay. So we have an added delegation from Sylvia Roberts for item 7.2. So we'll just do that again with that change, with the addition of a delegation. Moved by Councillor Bowman. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Yes, Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to report conflict on item 4.2, report Habitat for Humanity. I don't have a direct pecuniary interest in the project, but I do own a home on the same street. And so therefore, in an abundance of caution, wish to declare a conflict, and I've given my form to the clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Vicente. So noted. And just as before we go into the committee, I just noticed that our former councillor, Councillor Miles, have just joined us, retired councillor. So just like to recognize her for all her valuable contribution to the city of Brampton. Thank you for joining us. So we have nothing in consent, and now to item 4, statutory public meetings report. This is a public meeting of the Planning and Development Committee held in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act of Ontario. The proposals to be heard at the planning meeting are the result of applications made under the Planning Act. These are not proposals of the City of Brampton unless they are specifically identified as city-initiated proposals. This evening, we have one proposal, item 4.1, that is a city-initiated proposal. The intent of this public meeting is to hear submissions from the applicant in public regarding these proposals. Members of the committee may ask questions for clarification, but will not engage in debate on the proposal at this time. Committee consideration of the proposal will occur at a future meeting when planning staff bring forward the final recommendation report on each proposal. The city also has posted to its website, brampton.ca, supporting information, documentation for all these current development applications for public review and reference. So our first item is 4.1, city-initiated draft official plan and zoning bylaw amendments to implement the recommendations of the Bramalea Mobility Hub land use study. Are there any members of the public who would like to hear a presentation? Going once, twice, 3, oh, yes, okay. So there's been a request for a presentation, so I'll hand it over to Ms. Claudia Larota.
evening, members of committee, members of the public. My name is Claudia Larota, and I'm a policy planner with the Planning and Development Services Department. This evening, I will be presenting the city-initiated amendments that propose to implement the recommendations of the Bramalea Mobility Hub land use study. The lands that are subject to the proposed amendments are approximately 106 hectares in size and are generally located around the intersection of Bramalea and Steeles, just north of the railway line, where the Bramalea Mobility Hub is located. The Bramalea GO station is identified in the growth plan as a major transit station area. It is also identified as a mobility hub in the city's official plan, and it's designated for office as an area that is planned to accommodate significant growth through intensification. The office designation of the secondary plan, of the official plan, corresponds with the boundaries of the Bramalea Road South Gateway Secondary Plan, Area 38. However, the area is currently developed with low-density industrial uses. Mobility hubs are planned as areas for significant intensification due to their planned service level in transportation. They're planned to accommodate significant intensification through densities that accommodate transit and pedestrian-oriented development. Due to the existing zoning permissions, the city was concerned that those existing low-density employment uses will compromise the long-range planning objectives of the mobility hub. And in October of 2017, an interim control bylaw was enacted by council to freeze development in the area, while a study was undertaken to review the policies that applied. The study, the Bramalea Land Use Study, commenced in January of 2018, basically to review the policies that existed in the area and to make some preliminary recommendations. An open house as part of the study was held in April of 2018, just to present preliminary recommendations and seek feedback from the stakeholders. The Bramalea Land Use Study was finalized in January of this year and was presented to Planning Committee in March of 2019. The amendments that are being presented today are the result of that study. Mobility hubs are generally defined as a 10-minute walk or an 800-meter radius within a GO station. In accordance with Metrolinx's guidelines for mobility hubs, the study area was defined as the 800-meter radius from the Bramalea and Steeles intersection. Current policies in the secondary plan already recognize the potential for this area to develop for higher order uses, mainly for office at the intersection. It is proposed through this exercise to expand the boundaries of that secondary plan area 38 to include the lands within the 800-meter radius and to rename the secondary plan as the Bramalea Mobility Hub. The existing designations of the Bramalea Gateway secondary plan will continue to apply. The intersection of Bramalea and Steeles is still intended to be protected for future office, and the frontage along Bramalea and Steeles is designated for a mix of office with accessory retail uses. The remaining of the secondary plan is designated to provide for a mix of employment, industrial and commercial uses. At this point, we're proposing two special site areas, one on the west side of Bramalea, just south of Avondale, to recognize those two high-density buildings that are there, and they have site-specific permissions for retail uses. The second special policy area is proposed for a portion of the Canadian Tire site to recognize the highway commercial permissions that they currently have. The amendments also propose changes to the existing industrial zoning provisions. Similar to the secondary plan designations, it is the intention of the zoning provisions to protect the intersection for future office development. We're also proposing to remove heavy industrial permissions for the M2 zone and to add office as a permitted use. So even though the city has encouraged office uses, the area is still zoned for industrial uses, and office uses are not permitted. So in order to encourage a short-term development of office uses, we're proposing to add office and avoid the need to do rezoning. The secondary plan also recognized the short-term continuation of some of the existing industrial permitted uses. The proposed amendments are consistent with provincial legislation and conform to the city's official plan and the regional official plan. It is important to note that the results of the Bramalea land use study and the recommendations that are being proposed tonight are not the final step in the planning for the framework for this mobility hub. In accordance with provincial guidelines, the region of Peel is currently undertaking a review of the major transit station area boundaries, which is supposed to be completed sometime next year. The purpose of this study is to define the boundaries of the major transit station areas and to define the appropriate densities. The city also will undertake a master plan in accordance with our official plan policies. The master plan for the mobility hub will guide the ultimate land uses that will be proposed for this area, the intensity and the distribution of those uses, and the urban form. Those amendments will further refine the policies that are being presented today at the secondary plan level. And I just forgot to mention, as this area is still designated for employment uses, we recognize that there is potential to introduce additional commercial uses and residential uses in the future. We will work with the region of Peel through their next municipal comprehensive review to bring forward any recommendations to introduce any non-employment uses for the area. The report that is being presented today has been posted on the website, and this presentation will be posted shortly. My contact information is provided on the screen if anybody has any comments or any feedback. We are proposing to bring forward these amendments before the ICBL expires in October. So early fall, we will present the recommendations of this study. And with that, I conclude the presentation.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, are there any questions or Councilor Fortini?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Just a quick question to the staff. I got a lot of calls today that we sent letters to a certain area, Avondale, but we didn't send letters to the rest of the residents. How far did we send the letters for this public meeting that people couldn't come here tonight and they don't know what about it?
So we mail notices within a 240-meter radius of the study area. Not every resident will get a notice.
So
And the notice was also posted on The Guardian.
So we stopped at Avondale. Anyone just on the opposite side of Avondale, across the street, they never received them. Only the south side did. And on the east side of Bramalea, I got many calls today about this. They didn't receive nothing. And they were asking me about this meeting, and I didn't. So not everyone gets a Brampton Guardian, so we should try to focus a little bit more wider.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Fortini. As I see there are no questions, and forgive me, members of the audience, if anyone would like to come and delegate on this matter, please come forward. No? Okay, thank you. So can I get a motion to receive the staff report and receive the added correspondence? Moved by Councilor Fortini. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. We will now proceed to item 4.2. Application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw Habitat for Humanity GTA on 25 William Street, Ward 1. Is there anyone here this evening who would like to hear, is there anyone here that would like to hear a presentation? Yeah, okay. So I would invite, yes, Mr. Vandenberg, please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, committee members, and members of the public. My name is David Vandenberg. I am the planner assigned to process and review this application submitted by Habitat for Humanity. And the purpose of this public meeting is to provide information to the public on it and seek feedback on the application for us to use in our review of it. First, as far as the location, the property is located in Ward 1 in downtown Brampton. The address for it is 25 William Street. The property has a area of 0.29 hectares, which is equivalent to 0.71 acres. The applicant is generally proposing to develop one block of stacked townhouses with 12 dwelling units. This requires an amendment to the downtown Brampton secondary plan and to the zoning bylaw, and I'll go into more detail on those amendments later in the presentation. As to where we are currently in the process, The application was deemed complete on April 10 of this year. It has been circulated to commenting departments and agencies for review. Public notice of this meeting was provided in the News Brampton Guardian on April 18. The direct mail notice was provided to all property owners within 240 meters of the subject site, and the map on the screen shows the extent of that mailing. As to the area context, the site is a vacant property located at the end of William Street. Main Street North is the closest major road. As you can see on the air photo on the screen, William Street currently ends at the northwest corner of the site, and one of the proposals for this development is to make an extension of that street. I would also note that there is a wooded area on the southern and western parts of the site. Surrounding land uses include low-density residential to the north, south, and west. And to the east, there's a seniors housing development, the Green Ray retirement community. This slide on the screen now shows a bird's eye view of the property, and you can more clearly see the types of housing that are currently in the area. As to the proposal by the applicant, it is generally for 12 stacked townhouse dwellings within one block. Some noteworthy features of the proposed development include an approximate 45-meter extension of William Street east from where it currently dead ends, a development model designed to provide affordable housing, 15 parking spaces located in the back of and behind the proposed townhouses, the retention of the woodlot on the southern part of the property, and the net density proposed is 102.6 units per net hectare. This slide shows a rendering of the proposed building. I would note that the building height is approximately 11 meters or 36 feet. So in the next part of my presentation, I'll be discussing the planning framework that applies to the site and which we will be using to review this application. It will be reviewed for consistency with the provincial policy statement and conformity with the provincial growth plan and other relevant provincial policies, as well as the regional and city official plans. This slide shows the current official plan designation, and it is designated in the official plan as central area, and the property is also located within the urban growth center. The official plan states that the vision for the central area and urban growth center is to continue reinforcing its role as a focal area for investment in institutional and regional-wide public services, as well as commercial, recreation, culture, and entertainment uses. The central area is a major preferred location for enhancement and intensification, permitting a full range of office, retail, commercial, and service activities, as well as an array of residential and institutional uses. A vibrant mixed-use urban growth center will include planning to achieve a minimum gross density of 200 people plus jobs combined per hectare. An amendment is not required to the official plan. I would also note that there are applicable policies in the official plan related to natural heritage, cultural heritage, and affordable housing. These policies are applicable to this development, and conformity with them is being reviewed through the development review process. In the secondary plan, which is for this property, the downtown Brampton secondary plan, the property is designated medium density residential. The intent of this designation is to encourage infill residential development that is sympathetic in scale to existing building stock. An amendment to the secondary plan is required, as typical residential uses associated with the medium density designation include block townhouse, street townhouse, and 4-unit buildings, and the maximum density is 50 units per net residential hectare. An amendment is needed to permit the proposed stacked townhouse use and the proposed density of 103 units per net hectare. As to the zoning bylaw currently is currently zoned open space, and that zone permits recreational facilities operated by public authority and conservation areas. An amendment to the zoning bylaw is required. The proposal is to rezone the north part of the site to permit 12 stacked townhouse dwelling units, and the south part of the site is proposed to remain zoned as open space. There are a number of issues that staff have identified as being specific to this file, in addition to the general assessment of the proposed land use and its impact on the surrounding neighborhood. These issues are, one, the functionality of the proposed extension of William Street to be located in the area generally noted on the photo. And the issue 2 is the impact of the development on the woodlot located on the site and the appropriateness of the proposed measures to mitigate those impacts. And 3 is the integration of the proposed built form within the surrounding neighborhood, including the adjacent identified heritage resources, which on the map are shown in the green and orange colors to the north of the site. As far as the next steps for the application, we are currently at the public meeting. Staff will continue the review of the application, including the comments that we receive from the public, as well as the technical comments from reviewing agencies and departments. We will then advance a final recommendation report to council for a decision. The issues raised at this meeting will be addressed in that report, and staff will contact and follow up with any residents who have spoken, written in, or advised of interest in monitoring this proposal. Finally, as a couple of final notes, this report will be posted, is available online, and the presentation will be available shortly. My contact information, if anyone has any comments and wishes to provide them after the meeting, is on the screen, and you can email me those or send those in at any time. And the applicant's information is there as well, and that's Nima Kia, who works for Habitat for Humanity. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If there is anybody who would like to delegate on this issue, please come forward. We have city staff here which they can register to delegate. Oh, my apologies. Would the applicant like to delegate as well? Please come forward. Yeah.
I think we've submitted our presentation materials. Sorry. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and members of the public. My name is Nima Kia, Senior Development Manager with Habitat for Humanity, Greater Toronto Area. I'd like to introduce a few of my colleagues who are in attendance with me tonight, including Joshua Bernard, Vice President of Real Estate, Jonathan Wells, Manager of Family Services, and Raquel Ruiz, Project Planner. As most of you are aware, Habitat GTA is an affordable home ownership developer. We currently have a number of projects in the city of Brampton that are in the planning or construction phase, including the 13-unit townhouse development at 59 McLaughlin Road. We've built close to 400 total homes in our region. Habitat GTA partners with working lower-income families that meet 3 major criteria, including need, means, and willingness to partner. Habitat GTA provides homeowners with an affordable 20-year mortgage. Payments, which include condominium fees, are capped at 30% of household income. We also provide homeownership preparation workshops as we exclusively sell to first-time home buyers. David provided a good overview of the context of our site and the existing policy documents. Downtown Brampton has been designated by both the province as well as the city for infill intensification. Our modest proposal for a 12-unit stacked townhouse development will help the city meet these intensification targets. The project is ideally located within walking distance of the Brampton GO station and bus terminal, schools, recreation facilities, and various amenities. Habitat GTA is committed to an open and transparent public consultation process. We first held an open house meeting to discuss this project on July 27th, 2017. We have also held a number of meetings with the Conservation Authority, city staff to discuss technical matters related to our development. Most recently, our project was presented at Brampton's Urban Design Review panel in November of 2018. Since we first met with the public in 2017, there have been a number of changes to our site plan to address the concerns we've heard. Our original site plan included 15 total units in an L-shaped design, which cut into an environmental feature at the rear of the property. Parking was entirely on the surface and was not screened from our neighbors. We've worked closely with our consultants to revise the site plan to address the comments we've heard. The changes include an overall reduction from 15 units to 12 units. The townhouse block has been moved to the front of the site to provide a better relationship with the street and to maximize the setback to environmental features. The proposal now includes a mixture of surface and integral parking, which is appropriately screened at the rear of the property. We have also retained a heritage architect to help inform a design that is sympathetic to the existing homes on William Street, including the heritage home at 22 William. The proposal includes an overall height, massing, scale, and materiality, which are in proportion with the existing character of the neighborhood. A heritage impact assessment report has been prepared and submitted to the city as part of our development applications. As shown in this perspective drawing, the new design achieves the following key objectives. It's pedestrian-friendly. It provides a good relationship with William Street. It screens parking. It provides a setback to environmental features, and it's well-designed. For your reference, we also had our architect prepare the above image to show a 3D perspective of our development and the surrounding context, including the Greenway Retirement Residence. This view is looking southeast. This concludes our presentation, and we would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would invite those who would like to delegate any questions or clarification, please come forward. Just please state your name for the record, and I would ask you to register after your delegation.
Can I give him my information?
Sorry?
Do I give him my information?
Yeah, after.
Registration?
Just state your name, and then after you can go there and register after.
Great. Wonderful. Do I address this
Yeah,
way or that way?
you address the members of the committee.
Perfect. So good evening. My name is Andrew C.K. I'm a resident of 18 William Street. It's right up there on the picture. One of the heritage designated units. Not the heritage, actually it has heritage listed. My neighbor George has the heritage designated. Heritage designated piece. One of the reasons we wanted to come here, and I've got my neighbors here with me today as well, is to talk a bit about the density that we have right now in that neighborhood, and a bit about the neighborhood itself. So I moved in there 5 years ago. I lived there with my family, and we actually moved from a very busy part of Brampton at Chinguacousy and Mavis Road, or Chinguacousy and Williams Parkway. One of the things we thought, it's a small neighborhood, 13 houses. We thought it would be very quiet, very easy to live with. Turns out it was exactly the opposite. And the reason it's the opposite is because in this neighborhood we actually do have a lot of rental units. We actually have an old age home that's right beside me that has 9 permanent residents. And those residents get visited by fire trucks and ambulances once or twice a week. Now this street, we forgot to mention, was basically, it's a narrow street built in the 1800s that can only afford parking on the one side. So when ambulances show up, they pretty much block the road in and out. In fact, we've got neighbors here that have been blocked into their houses, not able to go to work, to school, because we've had both parking and emergency vehicles on the street. For those of you that have seen pictures of the street, you'll also notice that we have telephone poles that are blocking the sidewalks. So in terms of accessibility, whether it's wheelchairs, whether it's snowplows in the winter, it's a very, very narrow street. On top of that, five of the houses on the street today are rental units with multiple renters. In fact, we've got one of them is a boarding house with multiple renters on the second floor. And each one of those, in fact, 2 of these houses have no parking at all on the property. So they're relegated to parking on the street. And that creates a lot of traffic and a lot of mess. In fact, I would encourage some of my neighbors to come down and talk about the experiences they had over the last 5 years in terms of moving through the street. Now, there has been one unit here. There was an empty spot on the north side of William that was constructed about 2 years ago. That was a brand new construction of a single-family unit. Upon construction, it was looked to be lived in or sold. It turned out to be another rental unit subletted 4 ways. That doesn't have a driveway. It has a shared driveway. Nobody can park there, so we're on the street again with traffic. So what we're proposing here, so we are in support of Habitat for Humanity. We're actually in support of the density that's currently on the street today. But the number of units and the parking that goes with it and the traffic that goes with it is the issue. And so today I'm here to challenge the zoning request to zone it to be even higher density. And that's why I'm here today.
Thank you very much. Our staff will note it, and we'll ensure that that's a consideration when preparing our recommendations. I would also note for those who maybe don't feel comfortable to speak publicly or delegate, they have the opportunity to contact staff. Mr. Vandenberg did leave his contact in the back of the presentation, and you do have area councilors, Councilor Santos and Councilor Vicente, where you can send any comments or any afterthoughts. So tonight's not the only night you can provide feedback. Thank you very much, and I just remind you just to register for record. Thank you very much. Welcome, former Councillor Miles.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of council. I'm actually here to speak this evening in support of the application by Habitat for Humanity. I do live in the community and are well aware of the geographical layout of this particular area. I've actually visited a few times in the last few weeks to take a look and to consider the application that Habitat has put before you. As I know each and every one of you are aware, there is a great need in this community for affordable housing. Here in the city of Brampton and the region of Peel, we have one of the longest wait lists in the country for people who are looking for an affordable place to live. The beauty of Habitat for Humanity is that the residents in the area will be assured that they're getting good neighbors. They'll get a good site and they'll get neighbors because all of the families that will be living in that particular neighborhood will be well vetted through Habitat and will be contributing to the building and the structure of their homes. I think the other point that needs to be considered is the higher density of the area. The city of Brampton has been told by the experts for many, many, many years that the city needs to increase the density in the downtown in order to bring about further revitalization of our city core. And I know this is one small application, but certainly it's a step in the right direction. I know when I was a councillor, I represented a community that had several sites in the area, in my community, where Habitat built houses. And in most cases, there was some concern from the neighbors about the development, as there is in pretty well any application, you know, that comes before us. But I can tell you as the representative, I never had one complaint once the building was put in place. The Habitat residents integrated beautifully into the community and became good neighbors to those that were living there. So I encourage you for many reasons to support this application.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And just to remind members of committee, if you do have points of clarification that you need from the delegations, feel free to get on the board and I'll give you that opportunity. Please, next.
Hi, good evening, members of the committee, council. My name is Larry Zacher. I'm a resident in Alexander Street, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the development for Habitat for Humanity. More a little bit about what a Habitat community or Habitat neighborhood brings to a community. So first, to my relationship. I've been a volunteer with Habitat for a couple of years on their build sites. I also worked under contract to establish their safety program for the GTA. So in both of those capacities, I've had the opportunity to work shoulder to shoulder with families. I don't know if it was mentioned in the presentation earlier, but each family that comes into a home has to put in or puts in what we call sweat equity. So they actually get in there and help with the build. So what's unique about a family moving into a neighborhood like this is they're already so connected and so involved in it. They bring that richness to an area. And it's such a win-win situation. It's so good for the families. If you've experienced the Habitat community and met families, you know the opportunity for them to have a home and to own a home and be part of a community and a neighborhood is so life-changing. And if you listen to their stories, it'll bring tears to your eyes. But it's not one-sided. They bring that richness and that active participation and involvement in the community with them. They're so eager to be part of it. And I think some of you know I ran Brampton's Great Neighborhood program for a number of years here, and I know what it takes to make a great neighborhood and to make an involved neighborhood. And seeing 12 families come into this area, I think would bring an enrichment and community participation. So it is a win-win situation all around, and I just want to support it as much as possible. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Next, yeah.
Hi, my name is Thomas Fisher. I'm a resident of Brampton. Many of you may know me. I used to work with Habitat for Humanity. And I just want to echo some of the comments that I heard earlier by Councillor Miles. I think the biggest thing that I feel is exciting about Habitat being part of the community, especially part of this project, is the value that they bring to the community. So I hear some of the comments there, but I just look at the need for the families that have a need for affordable housing. I think it's a great area, and I just wanted to bring my comments that I support it, and I'm really encouraged to others to support the application as well.
Great, thank you very much. Hi, welcome.
Hi, my name is Terry O'Callaghan. I'm a resident on William Street.
Okay,
And I am Agnes Seagate, and I'm also a resident on William Street.
okay.
So I do have some concerns about the logistics of the build. I believe that's great that Habitat for Humanity and all they do in the neighborhood, and especially the gentleman on Alexander Street. Unfortunately, our street has only actually 11 houses right now, so you'd be doubling the congestion and the traffic right now. To even get out of our street in the morning and at night is very difficult. Getting onto Main Street, which is always blocked. So that is a huge concern, along with also that was mentioned, the wideness or the narrowness of our street. I mean, we're all familiar with parking issues on our street. The other thing is just like the ratio of the number of houses. I've looked at some of the houses that they've done, and on McLaughlin, they have 2-story. It is not 3-story. And also they have much more parking spots available. And same with their other units. There's some that I believe, even Pinery Trail, it's a big one in Scarborough. They have only 1 3-unit versus their 50 that they are going to propose of 2-story. So I think just the whole project sounds lovely, but maybe it needs to be scaled down for the smallness and the area that it is, along with the tiny dead-end street. We're also worried about 5 years ago, as you can see, the big high-density retirement home. That back in the day was with Elaine Moore and also Grant Gibson, that said that once that went up there, that we would need all the other green space available, again, because the Etobicoke Creek is all right back there, and what is the effect of flooding on the rest of the residents in our area? That's a huge concern for us.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize again on the parking. Our street is very narrow. We did have challenges 2 summers ago when another property decided to build a house. Due to the trucks coming in for delivering materials, when the hydro lines, the water was dug up underground, it really impacted our neighborhood. We did have challenges leaving in the morning for taking our kids to school or going to work. And again, if we're looking at having 12 units put in by Habitat for Humanity, I really think for 3 years.
3 years minimum.
Again, it's the parking and the amount of units. We are okay with we want humanity to build in our neighborhood. It's just we really need them to reconsider the amount of units they are planning to build in our neighborhood. It is a narrow street. Many of us have families with kids. We do work. We do take our kids to school. So what is the plan when we have to leave in the morning and we have already 12 houses and then the trucks are coming? Like, are they thinking of that? Are they thinking of rush hours to exit into Main Street? Is that taken into consideration?
The other thing to consider is there's actually only 6 parking spots available on the street. So if they're allowing 15 parking spots, that's 6 garage and 9, 3, so it's only 6. They're supposed to be allowing 3 visitors, but 1 is handicapped. What happens if people visit families? What happens when kids, or if they have older children, where they get cars? Most of the people on our street have 2 to 3 cars per household. I'm not sure if that will be the case, but I don't understand how it could be 12 units and only 12, 1 per car, and then 3 visitors. The gentleman from Alexander Street, again, there's at the back of the street, I know there's some baseball diamonds, but there's also a big, huge green field. Something like that might be a considerable spot, because that actually goes right on to Ken Williams, which is a very, what would you call it?
Easy flow to traffic.
It's a
There's
main-
more
it's a main
access for main
street.
streets. If you're building somewhere, you will have a better access on that street for your lumber and all your.
Plus, you'd have more room for
delivery.
parking, you'd have more room for greenery and trees, and more room for them, and then the walking and accessibility is right there with all the biking trails. Something to consider is maybe there might be a bigger opportunity in the neighborhood, and still keep within our neighborhood, but not tie up a tiny little dead-end street that really has no accessibility whatsoever.
Okay. And then I just wanted to add, I'm not sure if the council has this available. It's from the Downtown Brampton Flood Protection Project Environment Assessment. So they did an assessment, and it's definitely, our neighborhood is in the flood zone. So I don't know when this has started, if this even goes into consideration, but definitely it's a flood zone, and I do believe that should be considered as far as building.
I actually had one question about this mobility hub area. Now, in the other presentation, what is the area of the mobility hub by the GO station, or the? What would that be considered? Because they're saying that this is part of the mobility area, but it's quite far from. It's a 15-minute walk to the GO station.
So through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps I can just inform that the mobility hub is generally at 800-meter distance from a GO train station area.
Thank you.
And I guess just maybe staff can comment. We look at, as the proper planning application will include traffic studies and all the elements which you have, I guess, referenced. So you can be rest assured staff will consider all of this.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for your
very
time.
much. Okay, there are no further questions or comments. Oh, sorry, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Stanislav Pettis. I live on Sproul Drive. Excuse me. Just, and I apologize, I'm really prepared for this meeting.
No problem.
Kind of rushed over. Jotted down some questions. Downtown revitalization is up. I lived in the area for a long time, since like 1990 or something like that. So there's always been talk about downtown revitalization, and one of the things that kind of comes to mind is the type of development we want to do in support of downtown, vibrant downtown. And it's not to say that a higher density housing might be better for this, but my understanding is that there's a number of either affordable housing or low income housing already in the downtown area, so I'm just kind of curious why another low income kind of housing development has been proposed in the downtown area. And I have other questions that probably can reach out directly to a contact to get the questions answered. But that's basically my main thing. It seems the if we want to revitalize downtown Brampton, it seems like we should maybe attract more luxurious accommodations than these. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, just to remind everyone, for those who would have further comments, feel free again to contact staff or your area councilors. So members of committee, I don't see any questions. So I'll ask for someone to move the staff report and move the delegations. Councillor Santos, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. We now go on to item 4.3, draft plan of subdivision application to amend the official plan and the zoning bylaw, Glen Shar and Associates, Paradise Homes Northwest, southeast corner of Mississauga Road and Mayfield Road. We have a staff presentation by Mr. Neil Grady, Development Planner, Planning and Development Services. Is there anybody here that would like to hear a presentation? No. Oh, there is. Okay. So I would invite Mr. Grady.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning and Development Committee, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Neil Grady. I'm the planner working here in the City of Brampton Planning and Development Services Department. That's been assigned the processing of this application to amend the official plan, zoning bylaw, and a proposed draft plan of subdivision by Paradise Homes. The agent for the applicant is Glen Shar and Associates. The application is within Ward 6. And it's at the southeast corner of the intersection of Mayfield Road and Mississauga Road. There is the more specific location of the property. It is also bounded by Veterans Drive along the east side. The property comprises 2 blocks on the applicant's registered plan of subdivision. This area on the existing land use slide shows that the property is vacant. It is surrounded by predominantly residential development to the east and to the south. To the south, there are townhouses that are approved. To the east, there is Veterans Drive, beyond which are single detached. To the north, Mayfield Road, which is a regional road, beyond which are predominantly agricultural uses within the town of Cowden. To the west, there's Mississauga Road, beyond which are residential uses. This slide provides a community context for the subject lands. It shows the property within the context of a section of the Mount Pleasant secondary plan. It shows in a blue dashed line potential transit routes along both Mississauga and Mayfield along Veterans Drive. It also shows in orange dashed circle at the intersection of Mississauga and Mayfield Road that there is a gateway, city gateway designation there as well. It also shows pedestrian connectivity further to the south and further to the east, predominantly across the greenlands or the natural heritage system, and also to institutional uses such as schools and parks. Prior to filing the application, the applicant submitted a commercial needs and assessment study, and that was prepared by the applicant to evaluate the proposal, which is before you this evening, involving essentially a redesignation, rezoning of the property from retail, commercial, motor vehicle, commercial uses to residential with some commercial uses retained. And that peer-reviewed study confirmed the introduction of residential uses, but the retention of some retail commercial floor space in the range of 929 to 2,300 square meters, 10,000 to 25,000 square feet. Where we are right now this evening is we're in a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. The notice of complete application was provided on March 11th of this year. The applications have been circulated to external commenting agencies and city departments and divisions for comment. The notice of the public meeting has been sent by prepaid first-class mail. That shows the 240-meter mail-out notification for tonight's public meeting. The public meeting was also listed within the Brampton Guardian and has also been posted on the city's website. Here is the applicant's proposed draft plan of subdivision. There are a total of 155 dwelling units, predominantly townhouse forms of development. The yellow color on the proposed plan of subdivision are proposing street townhouses with minimum widths of approximately 6 meters or 20 feet. The light brown color, those are dual frontage townhouses that are shown along the Mayfield Road and Mississauga Road frontages. And in the balance of the site, in the light purple color, there are proposed back-to-back townhouses. At the extreme southwest corner of the property, there are 2 semi-detached dwelling units. And at the intersection of Veterans Drive and Mayfield Road, there is a mixed-use commercial block. Finally, at the intersection of Mayfield and Mississauga, there's a combined walkway and open space block. These next slides provide you with some renderings showing the built form attributes as proposed for the various types of townhouses, these being the back-to-back townhouses, followed by the dual frontage townhouses, which are along Mayfield and Mississauga Road, ending with the street townhouses that are along the southerly boundary of the plan of subdivision. With respect to the mixed-use block, the proposal is to provide a reformatted form of retail commercial. In the long term, this would involve a proposed 6-story mid-rise apartment with ground floor retail. This rendering is showing that proposal from the intersection, essentially, of Veterans Drive and Mayfield Road. In the short term, though, that mixed-use block is also proposed to accommodate a retail, convenience retail plaza. This is a concept plan that is proposed by the applicant, which shows the essential layout of an L-shaped mid-rise building with connectivity to the corner of Veterans Drive and Mayfield Road. It shows parking, it shows some landscaping, and also there would have to be an underground parking facility proposed as well. With the convenience retail plaza, the arrangement of the 3 buildings is shown, again with landscaping and parking fields, and access would be from Veterans Drive and through Subdivision Street C. Subdivision Street C is a proposed right-in, right-out access from Mayfield Road, and the other access to the property would be from Veterans. There are a number of regulatory policies and upper tier or provincial documents that we will also evaluate in the context of these applications. That is with respect to the provincial policy statement, the Planning Act of Ontario, the City of Brampton official plan, the regional official plan, and of course the city's comprehensive area zoning bylaw. The property is currently designated residential on Schedule A, general land use designations of the official plan, and neighborhood retail on Schedule A2. The applicant is proposing to amend Schedule A2 of the official plan to delete the neighborhood retail designation and to redesignate the portion of the property at the corner of Veterans and Mayfield Road from neighborhood retail to convenience retail. The current secondary plan designations from the Mount Pleasant secondary plan, the motor vehicle commercial designation coinciding with the mixed-use block at the corner of Veterans and Mayfield, with the balance of the site designated neighborhood retail. The applicant is proposing to amend the Mount Pleasant secondary plan by redesignating the motor vehicle commercial to mixed use and redesignating the neighborhood retail to medium density residential. The final amendment involves an amendment to the 51-2 block plan for this area. The block plan designates the property both neighborhood commercial and motor vehicle commercial. The applicant is proposing to amend that schedule of the block plan to to redesignate the residential townhouse and semi-detached component from neighborhood commercial to medium-density residential, to redesignate the motor vehicle commercial to convenience commercial. The property is currently zoned C3, section 2234, and that zoning permits retail commercial and motor vehicle commercial uses only. Here's an extract from the applicant's proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The R3E prefixes that you see on the slide coincide with the three types of proposed townhouse typologies. The R2E at the southwest corner coincides with the two proposed semi-detached units. And finally, the C1 triple H designation coincides with the mixed-use block. There are a number of issues that have been identified through the circulation of the application to date. The first issue was with respect to the city structure and the policies of the official plan, and staff are still evaluating building height and associated density, especially with respect to the proposed mid-rise apartment on the mixed-use block. With respect to traffic and access, the applicant's traffic assessment has been approved by the city. As of late last week, Region of Peel has provided comments now as an update, and the Region of Peel is supportive of the right-in, right-out proposed access to Mayfield Road, and is supportive of the findings and conclusions of the traffic and access study. The final issue is urban design. There's an urban design addendum that has been submitted in a brief, and that is under review with respect to built form architectural and landscaping attributes. And finally, with respect to the mixed-use block, staff will continue to evaluate the proposed retail commercial uses, and including what would be an appropriate potential redesignation for that particular block. Where we are in terms of the next steps in the process is staff will be collecting and evaluating all of the technical comments that have been provided and will be provided by external agencies and city departments. We will then proceed with a final recommendation report. Any interested member of the public that speaks tonight to the application, signs the public meeting registry, and or provides written comment will be notified by our department as to when that future planning recommendation report is finalized. And here's the contact information. The information report will be posted on the city's website, as will this presentation. There's my contact information, and the agent for the applicant is Mr. Carl Brawley of Glenn Schnarr Associates, Inc., and there is Mr. Brawley's contact information. So that concludes the staff presentation, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Would the applicant like now to come and make a presentation? Is the applicant here? No? Okay, great. Now, if there's anyone who would like to come forward and delegate on this matter, feel free to come forward. And I remind you, as stated in the presentation, you have an opportunity to send your comments or feedback, and you have your area councilors, Councillor Palushi and Councillor Willens, who are always available to pass on that information. Okay, thank you. Can I get a mover to receive the staff report? Moved by Councillor Palushi. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And that is it for our public portion, our portion of public meeting. Now we go on to delegations, and I believe we have special delegations today, or tonight. We have delegations from Cardinal Leger, St. Thomas Aquinas, Harold Brathwaite. Special shout out to St. Augustine Catholic School, as I was a graduate myself, Brampton Centennial, Turner Fenton, St. Edmund Campion, St. Famille, David Suzuki, Central Peel, Fletcher's Meadow, Jean Augustine, Ingleboro, and Mayfield Secondary Schools regarding Brampton 2040 Vision Youth Symposium. We might want to just wait a couple minutes so people can. I would ask anyone who is exiting, please exit, respecting that our meeting will go forward. Thank you very much, and your floor is all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, members of council, members of the public, and the great students that we had an opportunity to work with. I'm not here to tell you much, except that we have amazing students here tonight, and we've brought the youth to planning committee, and we're excited about that. My name is Antonetta Minikilo. I am the manager of community innovation and resilience, and I am happy to tell you that on December 1st, 2018, 100 students from 35 schools in Brampton participated in the City of Brampton's first youth symposium for high school students to engage our youth in the 2040 vision and propelling that forward. How this day came about, we went to the youth and we said, what would a meaningful experience look like to you to engage with us, the city? And they told us, can you feed us burrito boys? And can you make sure we can get in front of council? Those were their two things that they told us, and we should check, and that's what tonight is about. So the event gave Brampton youth an opportunity to share their ideas on to propel the 2040 vision to life. Participants were able to share, to choose an area of interest, and then they were asked to create solutions for the city of the 28 actions outlined in the Brampton 2040 vision. Together they worked to develop an action plan for our collective future. They committed an entire day to help us, and they generated ideas, and 6 teams were deemed to have been winners. Frankly, they were all winners that night, but we had a selection panel of which ideas we wanted to bring to council, and that's who is before you tonight. And you will also have an opportunity to formally award them some medals that we created for the evening. So before we move on to our very smart, engaged, passionate youth who really want to help us with the city, I'm going to show you a quick 1-minute video, and then I'll introduce the groups to you. The sound doesn't appear to be working. Do you want me to try again? This house, City Hall, this is your house. Your voice belongs here. It matters here, and it can make a difference here. Over the course of our continued engagement of this project, youth became a meaningful source of inspiration and leadership. Local government belongs to you. The decisions we make today are the ones that you will inherit. The future we plan today is your future, and we want you to love it. Today, let's write the plan, shape the narrative, bring the 2040 vision to life, and become partners, forever partners, on the journey to a brighter Brampton. So that was just the 1-minute clip summarizing the day, and without further ado, I'm going to call up our first group, Make Brampton Great Again.
Good evening. I would like to start off by thanking the City of Brampton for this opportunity to speak in front of you today. And that being said, today we're going to be discussing downtown Brampton and the changes we'd like to see incorporated by 2040. Our plan includes changes to transportation, safety and security, education, infrastructure, and employment. Now, kicking us off with transportation.
So, how we would be changing the transportation in Brampton would be working with regional partners to establish high-speed rail connections and light rail to get access to all across Brampton. Create an identity as an ecologically friendly city through bicycle sharing systems like we have in Toronto. By implementing technology, by creating interactive mapping, by collaborating with transportation partners. This would include York Transit, which could bring us all the way to the end of Brampton, and so we could be able to access York pretty easily with transit straight to there. We could reduce the price of transit, which we are already working on, as I've noticed, and we could also add an innovation corridor.
Good evening, members of council. So central to any future plan for 2040 is safety and security in the downtown core. Now this is imperative to ensuring that the downtown core can flourish and actualize our 2040 vision. So first, we must collaborate with the community and police through crime reporting campaigns to ensure that all members of the community are doing their legal duty to ensure that the downtown core is as safe as it can possibly be. Additionally, we would seek to implement advanced security measures through technology to ensure that all of our information in the downtown core about crime statistics and other relevant information is accessible to the people who are promoting law enforcement. Through these measures, we will redefine Brampton's identity in the downtown core and promote tourism and eliminate any stigma about crime that currently exists. Furthermore, we will seek to relocate the methadone clinic that is currently located in downtown Brampton to remove individuals who consume illicit drugs and loiter in the downtown core to promote family values and ensure that the downtown is safe for families and members of all our community to enjoy all of its amenities. Furthermore, we would like to replace security guards with a solid police presence in the downtown core to ensure that the people who are promoting law and order and safety are equipped with the relevant tools they need to do their jobs professionally and to the best of their ability. Thank you.
So moving on, we have education. So we want to focus on a strong focus with STEM education. So this would include science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This will add to local jobs. We also want to collaborate with different universities such as Waterloo and McMaster. This will allow us to make Brampton the hub for artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. We also want to partner with partners such as Chang, Algoma, Ryerson, and Sherman.
Hello. Okay, so moving on, we'd like to talk about the infrastructure of the downtown area. We would like to add a modern aspect to the pre-existing historic architecture in the downtown area. So basically, we'd have your already existing retail area and then adding a high-capacity living area on top of that. So we have an understanding that technology will be brought into the downtown sooner or later, specifically cybersecurity. And we'd like to incorporate that into the buildings itself so it has a safer feel for everyone living there, as well as giving back to the community with research centers and expanding and constructing new recreational centers.
Good evening, Council, Chair and Mayor Patrick Brown. So next we're going to focus on jobs and employment. So our plan, we want to attract more businesses, national and international corporations to Brampton. Recently, Coca-Cola invested $20 million towards their Brampton plant. Also, we want to add more STEM jobs STEM jobs in Brampton and allow more jobs for the residents of Brampton.
And we also want to create work-life buildings and reduce taxes for small businesses. And this plan hopefully allows students to have more jobs. The students are getting older and older and looking for jobs in the downtown area. And this plan hopefully increase employment for parents as well as students and allow them to remain in Brampton.
Good evening. So now I'm going to talk about where we're going to apply these changes. So as you can see with the map provided, it's mainly in the downtown area. And we're going to be looking at especially City Hall because a lot of the downtown area does have older infrastructure that we believe that we could support and build on top of. And we could have work-life buildings as we said before. There's also some green area that we could take advantage of for both fields, schools, and more infrastructure for more home-live work and jobs. Thank you.
We hope you consider our proposition and thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you very much. Sorry, just to intervene, members of the audience, as we go on to the other delegations, we have our mayor with us. And just a reminder, our mayor is not required to be here, so he's taken, I know he has a busy schedule, so he's come here to especially be here and listen to some of the youth delegations. So I'll just pass it to him to say a couple of words. So I thank the mayor for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Chair Medeiros. And when Councilor Medeiros mentioned that we had some of the brightest young minds coming to Brampton City Hall tonight, I just wanted to drop by. Just upstairs, we were doing a 2-hour Reddit town hall that I was participating in, where we take questions from young people in our community about how to shape our future. And at the same time, here we have so many students giving advice on the direction that we hope to take our city. And as I heard a summary of the deputations, it's very much in line with what we're talking about with the 2040 vision. And so I just want to say thank you for being involved in our city. The worst thing for a city is apathy. The best thing is when the citizens say, this is my city and I want to help take that pen to write our future, to help design our future. And I'd say, particularly for young people, it's so important. The decisions that are made today will affect you more than anyone else, because you have a long runway of being a resident in our community. And so I just want to say on behalf of the city how grateful I am the fact that you're participating so actively in this 2040 vision, and we're all taking it very seriously. We're all taking it to heart. We believe in the 2040 document, and the 2040 document is predicated on citizen involvement. And so thank you for being awesome. Thank you for loving the city of Brampton, and congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. I'll pass it back to staff.
I will say that some of the students did ask, will our mayor be there, in such excited anticipation. So thank you for coming. The next group to come up has named themselves the Tree Trackers. So come on up, Tree Trackers.
Distinguished city councilors, esteemed conference organizers, and fellow Bramptonians. My name is Gaurav Chahal, and this is my team. And today we're here to present our idea to help reform the city and improve its environmental sustainability through an annual tree planting month. However, just before I begin, I'd like to ask you all just to close your eyes and imagine. Imagine you're stepping out of City Hall as the sun's setting. You step out to an array of mesmerizing trees complemented by the beautiful greenery that surrounds them. The shadows of these trees overlook the surrounding roads, and as you look down these roads, the tree line continues into the horizon with only the silhouettes of these branches in sight. This vision is not just a vision. Through coupling the actions of the citizens, the city, and various organizations, we can bring this to fruition.
Now, as you can imagine, the aforementioned notion primarily involves one thing: trees. Beauty is only one of the many amazing benefits that these plants provide us. They help us remove air pollution, store carbon, control temperature, mitigate flooding, and even reduce noise. Hence, it is vital that we, as a city, recognize these benefits and work towards getting more trees in our city. After having pondered about the Brampton 2040 Vision's first action, which entails the planting of 1 million trees, our group has developed an idea to help this goal come to reality by 2040.
This idea is the implementation of a tree planting month. This will happen in early fall, around September time, similar to the Brampton cleanup that already goes on annually. This is when citizens can come out during September and are given premature trees around where there will be hubs, and they can go out in their neighborhood and plant trees.
This project will involve individual, corporate, as well as school groups, and will give them a chance to give back to the community as well as contribute to our vision. For schools in specific, we hope to spark inter-school competition through providing incentives such as eco-school certifications. For corporate groups, we will provide recognition for groups who have surpassed a certain number of trees planted, ultimately encouraging them to contribute to our initiative.
Collaboration with the City of Brampton and rec centers would truly help us in creating a hub and also promoting our vision. In terms of the hub, they're able to then collect trees for citizens to come out during September and actually collect them to go out into the community and then plant them. Furthermore, collaboration with the city councilors would be truly helpful in terms of having your constituents plant 5,000 trees annually. This would truly help us in terms of getting the 1 million trees by 2040. Additionally, funding from the TD, Friends of the Environment Foundation, and Government of Canada for a potential $30 million for projects such as ours.
In regards to the actual area of planting, our primary objective, or one of them, is actually to plant more tree on school grounds. My school, for example, Harold and Brathwaite, has a plethora of free land available for planting trees, but no one's planting trees there, so that has to change.
Additionally, we intend to target neighborhoods identified by the Brampton Urban Forest Studies Priority Planting Index as having the highest tree canopy potential. As shown on this map, these areas include wards 3, 6, 9, and 10.
Moreover, we hope to collaborate alongside with the Brampton GeoHub to measure the tree canopy and H2O levels. This will truly show us a numerical value what our vision is doing. There will also be an online leaderboard for citizens to refer to, for organizations, for schools, and for individuals themselves to see who's really at the leading edge of what our vision is trying to become. This is also adding an element of competition, which is truly going to be very interesting.
Overall, this entire notion of planting 1 million trees and beautifying the city grounds will all contribute to Brampton's identity. We will be known as one of the first cities Ontario-wide whose citizens were able to collaborate, to create change, to create beauty, and to create something which exemplifies growth of mindset.
Everyone has a role to play in bring this vision to fruition. You, the amazing citizens of Brampton, are the backbone of its success. Through simply just spreading the word out there, you're helping to become a more sustainable and greener future.
Now, 1 million is a huge number, and I don't disagree with the fact that such a notion would be difficult for a regular city. However, Brampton is no regular city. We're filled with a wide array of persevering, open-minded, and resourceful citizens. So we, the citizens, have the potential to reform our city's identity and protect nature. Nature is the miracle that we depend upon. Now it's our time to give back to nature, to rectify all the mistakes we made in the past, and set a precedent for other cities to follow. Today, we must make a choice to work towards a more sustainable and brighter future, a choice to help this vision come to reality, and most importantly, a choice to help the city of Brampton go on the map. Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Natural Connection team.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So before we begin, I just want everyone to close their eyes and imagine. Imagine walking down a beautiful canopy of trees under the beautiful day of summer with your family and just enjoying the sounds and sights of nature. Now, open your eyes, and this is what we want to make Brampton. On December 1st, we had the unique opportunity of joining everyone at the Brampton 2040 Youth Symposium. We had the opportunity to talk about the Vision 1.2, which was Eco Parks in Brampton. Our solution to creating a greater eco park network was to develop apps, create infrastructure, and infuse attractions, destinations, and events into our parks. In our presentation, we're going to be talking about how we're going to be using the 5 lenses of the 2040 Vision Symposium with our solution.
Public engagement. Our eco parks will be a great place for Bramptonians of all ages to express themselves. Through events like public marathons around the parks to competitions between local artists, Bramptonians will be able to make this city their own by participating and giving feedback on the parks and the events. The eco parks will work as a brand new outlet for the people of Brampton to share their culture with the world.
We will be rejuvenating the park grounds with pieces such as murals, sculptures, and carvings into dead wood. We will be infusing the local culture and set art pieces to create, to make visiting these places enlightening experience. This can be done by letting the youth take charge of design. The possibility of creating these canopies within the parks has also been discussed within our team.
This project will utilize technology to enhance the experience of anyone using the park. We can use interactive park maps on the Brampton City website and use a Parks and Recs mobile app. All of this can be retrieved from GeoHub. On top of that, we can use the app to teach people about the environment. Maybe even have a system where you can take a picture of, let's say, a fallen tree, and the app will tell you about how that tree will affect the environment in the future and about the tree. We also want to use social media, maybe even have a Snapchat filter to enable the youth of Brampton to participate in outdoor activities. We could even implement free Wi-Fi within our parks. We would be one of the first cities in Canada to do this. Brampton will be on the forefront of using technology to connect people with each other and its parks.
Regarding the collaboration aspect of the Natural Connection Project, we have many exciting possibilities and proposals such as a volunteer Flowers for Hours gardening initiative, possible partnerships with bike share organizations across the GTA, working with local schools to fully utilize the beautiful and available Bramptonian city park spaces, allowing our children to grow closer to the parks. Think about the kids, playing freely in the parks, during school trips, in collaboration with the city and schools, hosting artistic and cultural events provided by the city itself.
Now, Bramptonians. It's a word we've heard before, it's a word we've probably used before. But what does it really mean? Now, when we come down to the identity of our city, I believe in the past we've struggled with this concept quite a bunch. However, I believe that our identity strength lies within our own multiculturalism. I believe that this project would open up a complete different source for a common space inside parks for people to come, celebrate their culture, celebrate their heritage, and even host art events. We believe that this would really help Brampton come together as one big family and feel even more at home than we already do. Now, the Flower City, we have this emblem. We believe that we should really take pride in this emblem. We believe that we can use this as a design or a reoccurring theme throughout the city to very much tie things in and take back pride in our own Flower City. Now, John Muir once said, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks." At the beginning of this presentation, we asked you to close your eyes and we asked you to imagine a scenario. Now, I want you to go back. How did it feel? How did it feel in that moment? And I want to let you all know that that feeling is not something that's unattainable. It's not something that's too far out of reach, and it's not something that's unrealistic whatsoever. That feeling is possible. Brampton, or the Flower City, has been budding for more than 150 years now. This project is how it blooms. Thank you very much for your time and listening to our presentation. We would be more than happy to address any questions or concerns that you would have. Thank you very much.
So we'll take a brief pause there and we'll give out some of the medals to the teams that have presented, and then we'll continue.
Whoever's got medals, come forward. Promise we don't fight.
three groups that presented.
So half on this side, half on this side. You're short. He needs to get up here. Big man needs to get up here.
Everyone's right first.
Look at the professional. Look at the right side.
Okay, now lift it up. To the right, to the left. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Good job. Thank you very much, sir.
The Spicy Transit group start to come up. Spicy Transit.
Is that pad up there? Pad up there, go. Yes, this.
Okay, do you want to introduce?
Yes.
Yes.
This group is called Spicy Transit.
Good evening, Council. We're here to implement complete streets into Brampton. What are complete streets? A complete street is designed for all ages, abilities, and modes of travel.
So we have three key aspects for our proposal towards implementing complete streets in Brampton. Right. And the first aspect is to make roads more accessible for cyclists and other roadway users, because currently our roads are more accessible for private vehicle owners only, and we want to change that. And one way we could do this is to implement landscape buffers, such as hedges, flowers, or other small plants in between sidewalks and car lanes to increase safety of pedestrians. We could also elevate bike lanes and sidewalks, create wider bike lanes, implement more bicycle signals and cross rides, and we could also introduce tactile paving, which makes it more accessible for individuals with visual impairments. We could also reduce the amount of wide streets, because it's known, it's a fact that wider streets decrease the safety of pedestrians. And the second aspect of the proposal is to create more space for greenery and make boulevards more attractive in Brampton. And the third most important aspect of our proposal is to reduce the number of private vehicles on road. And one way we could do this is to make alternative modes of transportation more accessible by making them cheaper, readily available, and have more well-planned and convenient routes where people need them. And our group's going to be introducing a new technology, Hyperloop technology, which is one of the newest methods of transportation, and it will help reduce traffic congestion in Brampton.
Okay, so now we'll be talking about Hyperloop, which is a new mode of transportation which was introduced by Elon Musk a couple years ago. This mode of transportation provides multiple benefits to Brampton. One of the first benefits is it eliminates the barriers of distance and time, and this enables individuals to reach their destination quicker, attracting Hyperloop to be a commonly used mode of transportation, which leads to a possibility of a reduction in car usage. Hyperloop can also be solar powered or wind powered, which is environmentally friendly. It's more safer for the users as it reduces traffic congestion, and it puts Brampton on the international map and gives recognition for Canadian cities in sustainability. Since Hyperloop pods are autonomous, there would be no need of drivers, hence the operating costs could go down. And finally, implementing a new and relatively fast mode of transportation can attract investors in the forms of public or private companies that will develop Brampton even more. Future aspects of the Hyperloop can include cargo being transported through Hyperloop, interconnection to other cities, and tourism that can be in addition to Brampton. We need Hyperloop because Brampton is in need of something that will spark the rise of the 2040 vision. We'd like to add a relatively new and exciting technology that not only integrates into the Complete Streets 2040 vision, but also allows the people of Brampton to rejoice in the delivery of something that is incredibly new and fascinating. In the long term, Hyperloop can be an effective, efficient, sustainable, and worthy project. Current noteworthy research of Hyperloop includes the Government of Canada's investment and interest in studies of Hyperloop system, which proves that it is an option that catches attention, and Munich Re, which is a renowned insurance company, has approved of Hyperloop's design.
And recently, Canada has been investing money towards studying the new Hyperloop technology, and there has been a proposed route from Toronto to Montreal, which can transport the citizens in only 39 minutes. And so this is a really fascinating piece of new technology, and although it may seem unfeasible at the moment, there are studies going on which can show that it's actually more feasible than we think. And if Canada does plan to move forward with this plan, then Brampton should definitely look out and study into this new piece of technology and how it can benefit Brampton.
So although we are talking about the Hyperloop and trying to get the councilors to think about implementing the Hyperloop and hopefully connecting with the route that's already been pre-planned from Toronto to Montreal, there are other modes of transport that we are proposing as well to hopefully complete by 2040 in case the Hyperloop is an extended project. So other examples would be subways, LRTs, and conventional buses. The main one we're focusing on is LRTs other than the Hyperloop itself. And LRTs have a lot of benefits in general, but we're just going to go over some brief ones. And the ones is, first off, it gives less greenhouse emissions, and it travels faster and carries more passengers than streetcars or buses. And properties located near LRTs will have higher market value as well. And because it will be traveling so fast, the traffic will be less congested and people will be able to get to one transport to like the next much faster. Some ways that we can raise money for the Hyperloop and or the LRTs. So we can lobby the government and City of Brampton so we can do proposals such as this and talk more in depth about the financial and the budgeting. We can also go to Ottawa's town hall meetings as it is starting to be a national project rather than just a municipal project. And we can get support from surrounding cities such as Toronto, which is one of the main cities that's being implemented in the new project plan. And some other things we can do is we can also get some private company fundings for aid and construction of developing the project. So we can get some technological companies for the actual Hyperloop itself, and the gardening and environmental organizations are for the the buffer systems that we're trying to implement in the city and raising the sidewalks in itself. So we're trying to make the city look more green and be a little more modern as we move forward in time.
So one of the most important parts of our issue is public engagement, and we want to do this by spreading awareness and educating the public. So we're going to do this by using social media and by mail, and this can also be held at social events and fundraisers, and in those we would have like info booths where people can come to ask questions. We also want to open up voting to this because we want to give the people a chance to vote on where the Hyperloop should be placed and what kind of places it should be in. And this will help us get our community involved, which is important for Brampton, and it'll help get the public's opinions in. And it will also ensure that those who are affected by this are involved. So to summarize everything we've been talking about, we want to just go over again the Complete Streets, Hyperloop technology, and LRTs. And our main goal for this issue is to have safer streets for pedestrians and cyclists, and to ease the access for different modes of transportation. And by bringing this to Brampton, we will not only be making history, but we will also be attracting people to our city. And this will create an image for our city as a technological community. Thank you.
The next group is called the Royal Reimagined Route.
So as said, we are the Royal Reimagined Route. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Michaela. I'm Ivani.
So today we're going to be establishing the Central Queen Street corridor from Main to Chinguacousy. The first point we're going to be talking about is landscape. So here are the photos from the intersections of Queen and Kennedy and Queen and Rutherford. As you can see here, it's kind of bleak landscape because there's no color. So for our idea, we want to first get the public engaged by informing them with our landscape idea through events and info booths. And also people could volunteer to plant the plants and water the garden regularly once it has been done. And as for collaboration, we want citizens who live nearby, nonprofit groups, city government staff, and agencies such as conservation authorities. And as for our design, we want a rain garden in front of the storefronts and government-owned buildings to enhance beauty of street and our water quality. And as for the empty spaces, we could do a community garden. For our technology, we could spread the message through social media and the website for the neighborhood where citizens can send concerns, recommendations, and see updates on where we are at with the idea. And as for our identity, this shows how Brampton can be more lively, more bright, and more enjoyable. And these are just a few pictures of community gardens in Hillhurst, Sunnyside, and Richmond Hill.
So I'm going to be talking about Chinguacousy Park. So here's a picture of a really bland space that can be used to fill up with our ideas. So for public engagement, we'll be asking the public for ideas on how to improve the park. We'll get in contact with local high schools. We'll send letters home with elementary school students, advertise on social media, radio, and local transit, and we'll host fundraisers. For collaboration, we'll reach out to politicians with the same ideas, ask the public for their ideas on how to improve the space and use it properly to benefit them. So for design, we'll be using inspiration from other modern parks such as Trillium Park in Ontario Place, and there'll be accessibility features for all ages and people with disabilities. And we want to change the splash pads into a mini water park for children due to safety reasons, since they come out of the splash pads and go into the parks and make it all wet. So the picture on the right is just something that can help the identity and make the park more known. So for technology, we'll use lights to brighten up the atmosphere and make it more enjoyable. And we'll use sensored lights that run along pathways and heated concrete in the winter seasons. So here's an example of a park invasion of something that can be done. And for identity, Brampton is usually seen as ghetto and unsafe, and we want to make it more inviting and fun and allow people to feel safer while doing exciting things throughout the year.
Good evening again. Now, the redesign of the bridge located just outside the Brampton Library Four Corners branch is one of our main ideas for revitalizing Queen Street. So, at the moment, the bridge is seen in our eyes as an empty canvas. Our idea is to have a mural on each side of the bridge and also to expand on what we did with the Franceschini pedestrian bridge. Similar to other cities like Hamilton's James Street South project, which was done in 2018, we would have a contest for people to submit their ideas for the mural. This would engage citizens of all ages all over Brampton to contribute their ideas. We would work with city staff, citizens, and also local artists who would help with the selection process and potentially the creation of this mural. The mural would be a bright, vibrant design with lots of colors, which would showcase the creativity of Brampton. We will use social media accounts to publicize citizens and to keep them updated on the mural news. And also, this mural is an opportunity to let Brampton design the mural collectively as a community. and it is also a chance to showcase the talent of our truly talented local artists. We have so many more ideas to share with you, including the use of LED lights and decorative flowers, which we would love to discuss at another time, although today we want to introduce you to this main idea and get you hooked on it. We often hear that City Hall is our home. Think of this bridge as an entrance to our home, an entrance that is altogether welcoming, inspiring, and symbolic of our diverse community.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the safety. At this intersection of Cleveland Highway 410, we were thinking to have a cohesive color scheme in the plaza to make it have a more friendlier and safer feel. So using the 5 lenses, first public engagement, we think by consulting with the community through social media to gather their concerns and ideas on how to make areas more safer. Next, for collaboration, we want to collaborate with businesses, local companies, the government, and of course the public. And then for design, we want to have a professional, cohesive design throughout the streets. For example, by including public art, such as the one shown up here, which are on buildings in New York City, they brighten up the street and make it look more welcoming. Next, for technology, we were thinking to use LED and motion-sensored lights along the buildings. These are 3 examples of the Agabar Tower, the Empire State Building, and the Vancouver City Hall, where LED lights are used. And then for identity, we want to include all generations and all cultures to make them feel more comfortable and have a common ground where they can connect. Our overall goal is to create a safe and welcoming environment for everyone while using the public's inputs and ideas to make the area safe. Thank you for listening to our ideas and presentation about reimagining Queens Boulevard, as well as giving us this opportunity. We look forward to seeing our ideas in the coming future.
And the final team is Make Brampton.
Good evening, all city councilors. Today we're here to talk about the art culture of Brampton. Today we have myself, Micah, Erica, Abraham, and Christian. So the reason why we wanted to do this program and this initiative is because a lot of the artists in Brampton don't have the opportunity to get support and help within their community. And many artists such as Director X have not got all of the help they needed to become who they are. So we really wanted to help all of the talented artists that we have in Brampton.
We have many goals for Brampton, and what we decided to do is divide these goals from short-term, mid-term, and long-term. So for short-term, it's present to 3 years. And this is mostly our programs, and some examples of our programs are live art shows, art competition, and art weekends that will have farmers market. From 3 to 6, it's mostly our physical space, for example, the Brampton Art Street, and 6 years and plus, it's our living and working places like the Brampton Unity Cafe, a mural in Brampton that will showcase Brampton's art, and we also wanted to collaborate with post-secondary and private institutions for them to come in Brampton and offer classes to the Brampton population.
So one of our key physical spaces is the Brampton Unity Cafe and Studio. So that photo is actually borrowed from Studio 89 in Mississauga. So Brampton has one of the largest youth populations in Canada, and we plan on having Brampton Unity as a collaborative hub for networking for art and creative entrepreneurs. So upstairs, it'll be a multi-level building. Upstairs, there will be an event space and conference room. And downstairs would be an opportunity for open mics, performances, and displays of all kinds. And this is really important because it's accessible, it's focusing on public engagement. It's a great opportunity to cultivate the craft and keep it in Brampton, and also create like a warm and welcoming environment for young artists. And to support the the space. It's going to be a local business-run cafe in the building, and there will also be opportunities for student support, co-ops, and volunteers to connect students to the larger community as well. So another key program we have is the Brampton Students Arts Festival. So in order to actually collaborate with people and attract talent, we plan on collaborating with Peel District School Board, in particular secondary schools and post-secondary institutions. Because right now there are young people in Brampton who commute to some of the best schools in the country in creative industries and entrepreneurship. We have the Ryerson DMZ nearby, York School of Design. Waterloo has a really vibrant startup community, and Brampton's in the center of all of that. So why do all our students commute to all these institutions when we have so much talent right here? So this is an opportunity to let students showcase their projects in theater, music, dance, and visual arts. And we will select finalists in each field, and they will be rewarded with mentorship and studio time by professionals in the area and local businesses. And this will retain talent and also cultivate crafts. And these are just some of the organizations we plan on working with. The Fold, Real Youth, which has performed internationally, film internationally, and Peel District School Board.
Brampton Alliance, or BAA for short, was an app in which we developed for the main purpose of keeping citizens aware of the art and culture events in which are taking place in the city of Brampton. This is done by displaying a map on the user screen, showcasing different events in different locations, as well as invites users to events in which they may or may not know what's happening. This app is a convenient way to market and create a more accessible art community.
So the Brampton Art Walk. So a lot of different cities such as Mississauga and Toronto, they have an attraction that's iconic to their city, so that other cities around them are able to know who they are. So we wanted to do that for Brampton by creating the Brampton Art Walk. I wanted to give you guys a situation. It's a Friday night, you're with your family, it's a nice breeze outside, popcorn. The Brampton Art Walk is a place for you to do that with your family and have a vibrant experience within Brampton. So we really wanted to do that with the Brampton 2040 vision.
So one of our key physical spaces we have planned is just a proposed area in the Cannon Square, right outside City Hall. So this area, we were thinking of the street between Gage Park and Cannon Square could become a pedestrian only lane. And then that way, Cannon Square could be revitalized to keep like the perimeter of the square as like a garden and like have an amphitheater similar to that one, and like a gallery for people to sit and enjoy local performance. And this would be a great way for young artists to kind of break through and get like a social media following. And also, it would be like going back to our Arts Walk idea. It would be a great way for you to picture like you're walking through Gage Park, you're going to the Arts Walk, you're with your family or with your friends, and you know you're getting a coffee from Starbucks or any other business, and you're just like hanging out. You might spend like 2-3 hours there, right? People from all over the GTA would come to this, and it's an opportunity for anything from stand-up comedy to spoken word. This could be like a Friday night summer kind of event, and it would be a great opportunity for people to really showcase their talent. And we plan on having like great artists who really kill it at these performances. They have an opportunity to even perform at the Rose Theater. We could make a private partnership there, and it would just be a great opportunity to really collaborate and make use of all the talent that's in Brampton.
What we plan on doing with the outdoor theater is every single Heritage Month, we would dedicate a whole week and we would organize activities to embrace the heritage that's celebrated for that month. And what we would also do is that at the end of that week, for example, a Saturday, we would organize a huge concert celebrating that heritage that's celebrated during that month. So it'll let the citizens of Brampton to know more about that culture. Also, what my team we realized is that many cities in the GTA have known festivals, known events. For example, Toronto has like Afropfest, Caribana, Mississauga has Kearsaga. However, Brampton doesn't really have a known festival. So we thought that if we have a culture concert at the end of the summer, it will allow not only people in Brampton to know more about Brampton and the culture and the many ethnicities found in Brampton, but let the whole GTA know that there's lots of things to do in Brampton and lots of like ethnicities to discover. And it would be like it would be a great way for people to celebrate the differences in the different ethnicity in Brampton. And also, what we also plan on doing with the outdoor theater is to have regular Friday and Saturday pop-out shows for known and new artists to come and showcase their talents in any district of the arts. And this will be created with the Brampton Arts Alliance.
Okay, so in conclusion, we like to bring it back to the identity of, especially focus on the arts walk. What is Brampton as a flower identity? What does that mean in 2040? In 2040, the flower city identity is still relevant. Like, what's a flower city? It's a city in bloom. It's a city that's always growing. It's a city that takes people to cultivate. And with the arts and culture movement, we plan on engaging people from schools, from post-secondary institutions, from the local community and small businesses, and really cultivating the arts community we have here. And we hope that all of Brampton can benefit from this. Thank you.
Thank you to the students, to their parents, and to you, council, for your attention tonight. I would also like to note that many of the students are in their exam period, so it really means a lot to us that they came, refined their presentations, and pitched their ideas to you. I think we'll present the final medals and then conclude our portion that way. Thank you.
Now we'll invite members of council to join us. Okay, let's look to the right first. What's the left? And for those who wanted the mayor just told me he'll go to each person's house, take a picture. So you just let me know, and we'll make sure he does it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes. So item 7. Yeah. Yes, Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to take the opportunity to say how impressed this council is with the quality of the presentations by these young residents of our city of Brampton. If that is the caliber of the future citizenry of the city, I think that the city is in good stead. I know that our staff were paying very close attention to these presentations because some of the ideas were absolutely brilliant. When I think about how every year the city organizes festivals in our parks and we're setting up temporary stages, the idea of having a permanent stage, an amphitheater, close to the downtown area in some of our parks, maybe that's a great idea for us to implement in the future Riverwalk project. And so I just want to give a high five to the students, a great kudos to our staff, to Antonetta, and to the entire team at Vision 2040 for doing a great job of exemplifying what community engagement means. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vicente, and I think that was in form of a question, I believe. Great. Thank you, Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just one final thought and question. I guess going back to the youth, because they're all gone, and I wish that they were here for me to, oh, they're still here. So tomorrow, Sylvia Roberts is bringing forward a delegation on youth and youth engagement. I've read the report, etc., and how the report talks about young people not actually being connected with their governments. And tonight, we have completely thrown that out the window in terms of the level of youth engagement that we've seen here in the chamber this evening. So I'm wondering if we could send a message to all those young people who presented tonight, thank them, but also we need their help, not in terms of just coming here to present to council, but telling their friends to stay involved with the city and continue to be involved and volunteer and present to council on a regular basis.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we could absolutely do that. And I think many of them have come out to events that we've had. They're following us on social media, so I think that's all positive. And just so that council knows, we have taken the presentations and shared them with the appropriate groups across the city so that we can really implement some of the ideas we heard tonight.
Great. Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to receive the delegations and report 9.1? Moved by Councillor Williams. All in favor? Carried. Thank you again, staff, and kudos to everyone involved. We now move to item 7.1, neighborhood audit. Oh, my apologies. So, delegation item for 5.2. I'd like to invite Sylvia Roberts, and you can please delegate.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Roberts. I'm a resident of Ward 3, and this is concerning the Rose Garden residences. So this is a project that the plan is to be located just north of the tracks across from the GO station. And so a lot of the concerns from the city seem quite valid. For example, the lack of podium causing potential downdraft, the massing and stuff like that. But one of the things I found particularly strange in this report is it's basically saying, it says for the parking minimums, that the city just said the parking minimums from a project decided at Mount Pleasant, which I understand that they're comparable and that they both have a GO station, but the amount of transit service from Brampton Transit is quite different. If this was most suburbs, just going by the GO station and keeping that in mind would be quite relevant, but Brampton isn't most suburbs. It actually has a transit system that by a number of metrics is better than Portland, which is praised for its transit. And downtown we actually have excellent transit. Also, I can get the overhead projector. So it's by Mount Pleasant, there's the Chinguacousy bus, which is reasonably high frequency, but downtown is served by the 502 Main Street and the 501, both of which have very high frequency during the day. The Queen Street one is 7.5, and the main one is every 8 minutes. And even during off-peak, there's still 15 minutes. And the Queen Street bus is also 15 minutes, which in most cities is actually the point at which there's not only no minimums, but they're actually instituting parking maximums. So to have minimums where most cities would put maximum seems quite strange. We've had presentations on youth, and one of the things is youth at some point need a place to be able to move out and live. Sorry, it's kind of zoom in here. I don't know how to work this. So this is basically just the timetable for Brampton Transit, and it shows that the routes that run downtown do have high frequency service. So one of the ways to make a project like this work, because the city's proposing 400 units instead of 600 for that 590, which is what's proposed in the special policy area, is relaxing the parking minimum. The special policy area 3 actually specifically recommends underground parking, but in order to achieve the density levels that you'd want downtown by the GO station as required with your intensification for your major transit stations, there's no way to meet it through surface parking, and even if you could, it would look absolutely horrendous and you wouldn't want that kind of blight in your downtown. The most effective way to make a project like this work is to waive the parking requirements. I believe the council can do that by itself, but there's also section 40 of the Planning Act, which is, I don't know if the city has ever used it at any point, but it allows the city to waive parking minimums, specifically in exchange for cash. And as far as I know, one of the potential uses you can use it for is transit, given that it's going to be across from the GO station, which has rail traffic. Why would you want to live next to where there's going to be rail traffic unless you're going to be doing something like using the GO station or using the excellent transit there? So I believe it would be quite reasonable for the city to waive the parking in exchange for money, which could be used to improve the transit service further there to mitigate impacts on traffic usage. So that was my main concern with the report.
Thank you. We have a question from Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Sylvia, for your question. Through you, Chair. You're suggesting that a full waiver of the parking minimum requirements, or would you recommend that council allow the proponent for this plan to choose what parking ratio they feel is marketable and would be appropriate for their building?
It would be a waiver of the minimums, which is the city saying you have to pass this bar, which based upon the attached email correspondence seems to be what the developers are going for, shooting for exactly that, and it appears that they're asking for a reduction of that. The special policy area indicates that underground parking is discouraged, and so if you can reduce a floor of underground parking in an area where underground parking is discouraged, surely this would be in accordance with that. Waiving a parking minimum doesn't mean there's not going to be any parking. It just means they can choose an amount of parking that's more appropriate. Furthermore, the commercial area for downtown, as we saw from a couple weeks ago at a previous planning meeting, that's already waived for commercial because we've got 5 garages downtown, which I don't know if they've ever reached full. And if they actually did reach that point, you could look at raising your parking rates, which are $300 a year. In comparison, downtown Toronto charges like $20 a day. So it's clearly underpriced, and based on the city's financial statements, the city loses money on the garages from being underused. So if there is more parking demand than is actually built for, then the fees from that for the people who actually need it, they can pay for it instead of being forced to be paid for in their rents. I'm sure you've all heard about car insurance here, so it's if people have to choose between rent or a car, forcing them to pay for a parking spot for a car that they can't afford seems absolutely absurd. So I'd recommend the city getting rid of its minimum requirement, and the developer would be able to choose an appropriate amount as their discretion.
Thank you. Through your chair, one last question. Sylvia, as a young person, knowing fully well that the cost of real estate all across the GTA sometimes is out of reach for younger persons, some condominium developments sell the parking as a separate item, and often when parking is not available, there are some who would argue that the unit is less marketable. You've mentioned how the proximity of this development to transit puts it in a good position to be able to eschew or not have even the parking minimums. Would you purchase a unit that did not have a parking spot if you had that option to save the money and to put it towards your principal, for example?
Let's see, if I could pay $130 a month for a bus pass instead of, let's see, car insurance is $500, and add all the other costs, you're pretty easily looking at $800. Compare that with, say, a Brampton Transit Pass and a Metrolinx for the CAP for commuting to downtown. That would save me at least $300 a month, and then not having the parking bundled in, and because I could choose not to have that, that would save me at least another $300 a month. So it's, yeah, I think I could live with saving $600 a month to live downtown without a parking spot.
I figured you'd say that. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sylvia. And I think appropriate at this moment that we bring forward report 7.2. Are there any questions or comments from members of committee? I believe Councillor Vicente is on the board. Or Councillor Santos. It's named that councillor for wards 1 and 5. Councillor Santos.
We're on report 7.2, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. So, Councillor Vicente and I actually have an amendment to the motion and the recommendations in the report. I believe the clerk has it right now. Essentially, and while we're waiting for it to come up, both Councillor Vicente and I, many of us have been advocating for more intensification in the downtown core, especially considering all of the new activity happening in the downtown core, Algoma expanding. We're still pushing to make sure we have the university here. Residents in the downtown area are looking for places to live. Right now, many of them are living in illegal basement apartments, etc. And so the idea of having a development like this, which currently the property right now, for folks who don't know, is the empty parking lot with the store that sells vibrators, the Art Naughty store. That's the property that we're talking about. So instead of having a store that sells vibrators, we are actually very excited to have intensification and more density and residential units in that area. So we understand that right now the report that is proposed has some issues, but we do want to proceed forward. So the motion, the recommendation that we have is that staff recommendations 1 and 3 in the report be adopted subject to the following: deleting staff recommendation 3CI2 and replacing with the following new recommendation 3CI2, with a maximum of 596 total residential units subject to the following: all studies have been completed and all requirements of staff and agencies have been addressed to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services, and arrangements shall be made to the satisfaction of the Commissioner of Planning and Development Services regarding the site plan, design approval matters. In this regard, site plan drawings shall be completed to a point that the development can be supported. And deleting recommendations 3CI3 and replacing with the following new recommendation: the hold symbol may be lifted subject to the following: matters raised in recommendation 3CI2 A and B have been adequately addressed, and that further recommendation be added as follows: that in accordance with revised recommendation 3, staff be directed to prepare an amending zoning bylaw for the site in accordance with the provisions set out in condition 3 of recommendation 3.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Santos. So at this page, yeah, Councillor Pelletier, do you have a question? Okay. Do you have any questions, or do you want staff to comment on the amendment? Yeah.
So through you, Mr. Chair. So staff have been made aware generally of the conditions or the issues that would be brought up tonight and considered. So staff are understanding of those matters. Staff are, as you can appreciate, in favor of the report that we've put forward. Staff, though, are understanding of the considerations that councillors have put forward with this motion, and so we're understanding of them.
Great, thank you. Councillor Vicente.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just as a comment, and this piggybacks on what the previous Sylvia mentioned in terms of the ideal location of this property to transit and to a wide array of different amenities. It just is the kind of development that we want to see happen in the city of Brampton. We talk about the Vision 2040 and how higher density and livable living experiences can be built across the city, and this is exactly the kind of development that we want to see because it's transit-oriented development where the owners can not even have a vehicle and be able to interact with and participate across the city. We received just today a letter from the Downtown Business Improvement Area, and just to read a quick excerpt, the Downtown Brampton BIA would like to recommend to the Planning Committee that development applications for the Downtown Brampton area be prioritized, reviewed, consulted, and expedited in a timely manner to assist in reinvigorating the downtown core. And so we are supportive of this amendment to the staff report, and we hope that we will have the support of the rest of committee. Thank you.
Thank you, members of committee. We have a motion moved by Councillor Santos. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And a motion to receive the delegation. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now we go on to item 7.1, neighborhood audit plan. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Singh.
Can we get a brief presentation?
You would like staff to speak to the
please.
report?
Yeah.
Okay, so I invite staff if they can speak.
Thank you, Chair.
To the report, please. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to speak to the report. One of the actions in the 2040 vision is the call for evaluating the neighborhoods, and so it called for neighborhood audits. And what that includes is going to the neighborhoods with the community, walking around, and having them tell us what works, what doesn't work, what they wish was better in their neighborhoods. So over the course of last year, we undertook 3 as a pilot program in 3 different neighborhoods across the city. The neighborhoods we selected were just based on age of the neighborhood because we didn't want to get into any specifics of why we were selecting the neighborhoods besides just understanding newly developed neighborhoods versus our older ones and middle-aged neighborhoods. So we did those, and we tested a toolkit that we put together to conduct the neighborhood audits, got feedback from the community, what they would like to see change, what they wouldn't like to see change out of the audits, and how we could make the experience better for them. And then we came back and wrote the report with all of the conclusions and analysis of the community and what came out of it. And we thought, how can we move forward in an innovative, collaborative, but efficient way? So we noticed that a variety of departments across the city and the regional government all undertake audits of some sort. So for example, the region of Peel does walking audits. Brampton has not benefited from one of those walking audits yet. But there are services that are available to our community, and SNAP is a form of a sustainable audit. And the variety of audits weren't consolidated in one tool, and the community was being really consulted in a fragmented way. So we thought if we could bring all of those partner agencies together, develop one toolkit that included the variety of perspectives that everybody was going out to our community, and really find efficiencies in, if we all agree on this one tool, could the region of Peel deliver some audits for us? Could we do some audits? Could different departments across the city do some audits? So that really, this report is just telling you that we're looking at exploring those options with all of our partner agencies and trying to drive some agreements so that we can unify, sort of take these neighborhood audits across the city. We also thought that neighborhood audits might bring about, if there's something inherently wrong with a neighborhood, and we didn't want to give that impression, so we want it to be called a Nurturing Neighborhoods Program, and that would be an umbrella program to all of the ways we communicate and interact with our neighborhoods. So I think, very briefly, that's a synopsis of what the program is about.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Singh, you still have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. So is a Nurturing Neighborhoods program the similar as it is the same thing as a complete neighborhood audit, or is it separate?
It's the umbrella program to which the Nurturing Neighborhood Audit, the neighborhood audit would fit,
Okay.
as would a SNAP. So if the neighborhood audit came back and we saw one particular neighborhood was really interested in an environmental component and had some flood mitigation, we'd alert our friends at the conservation authorities to go in there and say, do a SNAP. If they had a public art interest, then we would let our colleagues in, our arts section know there's really an interest here in arts and culture. You might want to follow up with your programming and that sort of thing.
Okay, because I'm looking at the results. So I went online because you provided the link here on
Yes.
7.1.3, and I'm looking at an audit for our area. Mine and Councillor Singh's for Gore, and I see pardon? Dylan, Councillor Dylan, sorry. And I see that, for example, what is your age? And I see 86% of people are under 18 as a response, right, for an audit. So help me understand, I guess, wouldn't that skew sort of the responses? Because 86% for an audit, I guess it would be from the viewpoint of high school students and children. So how does that give us a complete picture of a neighborhood?
That's a good question. Through you, Mr. Chair, that wouldn't give us the complete picture, and that's what was just part of the pilot program, and we would know we have to go back. Part of what happened is some of the schools or the students who came out can do the audit online as well, and that's what's really important to look at what's working with the pilots and how do we get all demographics. I think for the balance of the pilots, you saw we had a broader range of ages to get something more accurate. When we went out and did the walks with people, there was a better sort of demographic representation of age, life circumstance, etc.
So I'm trying to understand, I guess, when because today we have the recommendation, I guess, for Nurturing Neighborhood programs become a permanent umbrella. So how will we collect data? How will we collect data differently than the pilots? Like, so we don't have results like this, I guess is what I'm trying to say, yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're looking at a variety of ways to engage, one of which will include schools. The other useful tool was rec centers, and now we're looking also to expand into places of worship to see if they can help lead the walks in the neighborhood so that we have better demographic representation. The other tool that we're collaborating with our data information specialist team on is using a tool called Community Analyst that will help us drive more equitable and representative results across all of the neighborhoods. And then also keep in mind that this will be a small portion of a neighborhood, and we'll have a bunch of neighborhood audits that would then give us a better understanding of the larger neighborhood, the ward, the census tract, etc.
And how many are we planning on doing, I guess, a year? Would there be like a target of completing 3 or 4 or 2? Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, our goal is to complete, we've identified about 45 neighborhoods in Brampton. Should everything go as planned with our partner agencies assisting, we want to do all neighborhoods by the completion of this term of council. So that's about 40 of them. The goal is to do between 8 and 10 this year and really continue to refine the process, see if there's any improvements that can be made, and then complete the rest.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is also see there are no financial impacts with this program, I guess. So that's what I'm trying to understand. If we're trying to complete 10, do we have staff devoted to this, or?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So there's no financial impacts completed with this report. We do say that there will be a subsequent report, and we can indicate if we're anticipating any financial impacts. But in order to offset any future financial impacts that we can foresee, we are trying to get all of our partner agencies to commit to doing them. So if we had staff to do 10 in the 4 years, we could do 10, presumably the region with their agreement letter as attached could do 10, the TRCA could help us do 10, and then the CDC could help us do 10. So the whole point is to help everyone get the information that they need, but also spread the work through all of us so that we can collaborate on driving these results, because everyone can benefit from what we do here.
So just because I just want to know what we're approving from recommendations, so just to be clear, just to make sure I am understanding. So we're approving sort of at a high level of the permanent umbrella program called Nurturing Neighborhood Program. And then we're going to start looking at potential collaborations. And I guess we're still going to work out the fine details of the program, correct?
That's correct. So
Okay,
we
I'm
intend
okay
to come back to you with a future report that
Yeah,
tells
that's
you
what-
exactly what has been agreed to
Yeah.
by our partner agencies, how we plan to offset any hiccups and that sort of thing. But right now, you do have letters of support to go into
Okay.
that exploratory phase
Got it.
and letters of commitment that they're willing to help us undertake these audits. We just have to have terms of agreement that are agreeable to all the parties involved.
Okay, so I'm okay with that. Obviously, I raised some concerns, and hopefully those will be covered down the line in additional when you come back and report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Singh, for highlighting free, no cost. We like hearing that at council. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you. I've had a chance to go over some of the, particularly the Gore and Castlemore area. I think it falls in Ward 8, south of Castlemore. Does this particular audit that you guys did, does it affect any planning nearby, north of Castlemore, anyhow?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's intended to inform any future interventions in the city, but it doesn't directly affect planning. So I can give you an example. When we were on this particular audit, they told us there's a bike connection that's unsafe for the families that were there and their children, and so we could bring that, well, we did bring that information back to our active transportation team to then see if they could address the link. So in that way, it could affect the planning of our active transportation infrastructure. That was the most immediate thing that came out of that result.
And it speaks about different types of housing. You know, it says mixed income living, et cetera, and some other types of housing. How, if there's an existing area, like how would we incorporate new types of housing there, or does it, or are we looking at other areas of Brampton based upon this audit?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if there are opportunities within the existing neighborhood, what we want to do is ask residents to identify where they would like to see more density as one example, or in their larger ward, where would they like to see opportunities. So when we did the Gore Meadows neighborhood audit, we also took some of the residents out on a bus because it's quite a larger area that we wanted to cover, and we went to main intersections and people told us here is where they could see potentially supporting more density. And then we were asking people to think in the long term as maybe commercial plazas redevelop, what's missing, what's serving them well, what's not.
So it's a combination of taking them out on, you know, to different parts of the area and also sharing their personal, I guess, experiences of living in that area? Is that what you guys took from it?
Through Mr. Chair, it's a combination of things. We did engagement to get people to come out and accompany us on the walks.
Right.
And then we asked people, after we did the walk, we came back to the rec center. We had Peel Police available for them and a variety of staff to talk to them about any issues they brought up. We had 311 for any immediate issues that we could solve. But we also asked residents what they would like to see, what they like, and what they don't like. So it was a combination of all those things.
So it's a good engagement. I had a chance to read it, but like, how does this, how will this benefit council in making decisions going forward? What specific area?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think the first goal that we need to accomplish through the neighborhood audits is getting people more involved in the daily life of their city. What we realized is that we provide a lot of great things that our residents don't even know exist. So awareness is the number one thing. So what we created was a resource guide of all the free services, free events, and all the things that happen at the city to at least create that baseline of understanding across all of our residents. The second thing is sometimes we might go in and say, okay, this park is due for revitalization, but we found out is that maybe there's some children that have some disabilities that we should consider when we develop those parks so that they're more appropriate. And so this could serve to inform infrastructure interventions in the future and even budget implications. Something as simple as letting people know about the community grant program, or that Peel Police offers tutorials for neighborhoods on how to make your house safer through design. All these things resonated with our residents, and sadly a lot of them had no idea that we offered these services. So I think awareness and engagement is just having a more engaged public is one of the ways it's going to serve council, but it will help us to make more evidence-based decision-making in the future and more informed, really something that reflects our community better.
So would you say this, like if we were to hold a town hall, sometimes you get like 5 people show up. I guess this is like us going to them and kind of taking them out and really kind of, you could say, forcing them to really see what the city offers or really kind of getting their suggestions.
I think through you, Mr. Chair, this is an opportunity to let them lead staff. We don't want to lead them. We want them to show us their community from their perspective, and that's very different type of engagement than we've done in the past, and it tends to drive a lot more residents. So the neighborhood audits that we did, we had an event on the weekend and 85 community members showed up. Many were from the neighborhood audits. So we start to develop this infrastructure list of residents who are engaged, who want to be involved, who want more information, people who want to volunteer and didn't know how to volunteer. Simple connections like that were being made through these walks. So I think the benefits are really untapped right now and quite tremendous.
Thanks a lot.
Great, thank you. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Councillor Singh had some really good questions, and along the same lines as I was looking at, and just what does really the implementation of this program look like over the next 4 years? And I think you gave us a better understanding. And I wanted to congratulate you on the engagement. I think you guys seem to get better and better at engagement. So I did want to give you those accolades. I guess on a go-forward basis and kind of what this is going to look like and the tools that the auditing tool that once developed will come back and to the effect of the data that you've collected so far, but not having any data, as a whole, the city as a whole is more or less the same, but specifically in areas there are different option service requirements. Without having any data or projects thus far in areas 2 and 6 and 1 and 5, when do we think that will be looked at and to try and get some kind of data out of those areas to determine, what this tool looks like across the city?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we're hoping to launch the rest of the pilots as early as this year once we come back with the agreement with all of our stakeholders. So we could get data for you as soon as this year. And what we want to focus on is on neighborhoods now that we've done our 3 by age is more geographically equitable across the city. So that will be the next lens that will apply.
Okay, great, thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor Palashi. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I heard you mention working with the region and with the THRC, is that right? Or CVC?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the TRCA, Toronto Region and Conservation Authority.
That's the one. So I know the information that you have on our website is public. So when you start collaborating with those other groups, where will the information be stored, and will that also be accessible to the community and to us as councillors and staff?
Through you, Mr. Chair, those are the conversations that we're having right now. All of our partners have agreed that it's in the benefit of everyone involved that the city continue to be a keeper of that information, and that making that information public benefits everyone in that process. So there is an open data agreement that we're working on with our partners.
Oh, perfect. And so I know the East Section Walk was a great success, and I've heard many people compliment on just how much information came out of it, and an overall sense of like wonder and exploration around the history that is Bramalea. So, I'm really looking forward to hearing more come out about when the other ones are going to be, and I'm just really hoping that we'll be able to know very clearly if you can just shoot us emails or when you're going to be in our ward specific. And so in that way, we can encourage other groups. So within many of our areas, there are little associations and groups as well. Are you aware of many of those so that you can link with them to encourage them to be a part of the walks or even lead them?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we are creating a web of influence for all of the wards so that we can tap into those groups. But frankly, you as councillors are going to be our main connectors to those groups. So the pilots were done with a sense of let's get it done quickly to see if the community responds well to it, if we're on something unique and meaningful here, and then we will leverage all channels available to us, including, frankly, all of your social media presence and influence to get people to come out. Recently at the Mayor's Faith Leaders Workshop, we talked to a lot of faith leaders to see if we could organize these neighborhood audits, starting with the congregation and going out from there. And then we're looking at partnering with rec to go around rec centers, libraries. So we're looking at whatever mode drives the most amount of people and engagement out so that we can have the most representative sample of the communities that we're completing the audits for.
This is wonderful. I'm looking forward to the information. And just to echo, and I completely agree with Councillor saying about making sure it's more wide range and age specific, just so we can get a good sample size and snapshot on who we're targeting. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Williams. And can I get a mover of the staff report? Councillor Singh, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, staff. Great work. We go on to item 7.3, residential driveway widenings review and recommendations supplementary report. Councillor Fortini is on the board.
Thank you through the chair.
Get back on the board, please. Sir. Great. Okay.
Just like some questions to staff here on this. We'll go through it. So if we go to 7.312, it talks the width of the driveway. Lot width is 27 feet. You're allowed 16 feet. What happens under zero lot lines where there's only 20 feet or 18 feet? What are they allowed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, any lot that's less than 27 feet in width is entitled to a 16-foot wide driveway. And so that would apply to a 20-foot lot, a 15-foot lot, but that is anything that's less than the 27 feet that you see there would be permitted 16 feet of driveway.
So if we get those, like the zero lot lines are 18 feet, they're allowed 16 feet driveway?
That's correct.
2 feet, okay, that's good. Now, we go back to the 50 feet. Going back, when I did my driveway in 1996, there was a thing, a bylaw that you could have two different types of surface. So you could have your driveway, and then your walkway would be wouldn't be part of your driveway. So what are we gonna do with my driveway now that's, it's over 22 feet?
Correct, and the zoning bylaw was amended in 2006 to address exactly that, because people were paving, through you, Mr. Chair, their driveways and paving a parking pad out of concrete or interlock beside their asphalt driveway, calling it a walkway, and then parking on it. It was certainly capable, as many walkways today are capable of being parked upon. So that is exactly why the bylaw was amended, so that now the overall combined width of your walkway and driveway is now based on the width of your lot. It doesn't allow you to pave surfaces adjacent and parallel to your driveway that are capable of being parked upon and then calling it landscaping. It's all defined as residential driveway in the zoning bylaw through that 2006 amendment.
Okay, and I get it. But my driveway, I'm saying, I got my driveway, now I got my walkway. Back then, I was allowed to do that.
Correct, so driveways
So
that
now what?
that predate the amendment in 2006 are now legal non-conforming. That is, it's legal non-complying technically under the zoning bylaw, but that applies to any pre-existing condition that was established legally at the time before the bylaw changed.
So when we brought this forward, I asked to look into Richmond Hill, Newmarket, and other cities. We even looked into Toronto, and they're looking at this type of driveway. Toronto, you're not even allowed to have concrete driveways. And that's what we looked at. So I was hoping to get, or maybe council, anyone that has a driveway and the walkway is a different color, and that's a walkway, that's my driveway, should not be all combined. Because that's where you park, that's where I walk. So if you get a driveway that's 17 feet, and then I have a 3-foot walkway, I have to squeeze between 2 cars, or I have to go on my grass to get in the house. I'm not allowed to have a walkway. Because that's what it's saying. So how does someone get between 16 feet or 17 feet to get to their front door? So they have to go in between the cars, right? So I always thought maybe a 4-foot walkway, so long as it's not consistent, all one color, that's the driveway. This is my walkway. And if they had a bench or a flower pot or a thing, they couldn't park there anyway. And if they do park, we give tickets. So we didn't really solve anything here. That's all we did is put a permit. We're back where we started. So if you come to my house and say my driveway is wide, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to complain on 4. So what have we accomplished here?
So through you, Mr. Chairman, if I could just speak to the matter a little bit. With respect to zoning bylaw changes to address differently the maximum driveway width, and relative to the walkway that is oftentimes just adjacent to the driveway and at the same grade as the driveway, staff have not proposed any changes to the zoning bylaw at this point in time. Rather, this report identifies a number of instances in which we do think that the situation can be improved with respect to creating a permit system for the driveways, amending the licensing bylaw so that the matter is really of changing driveways, expanding driveways. There's more emphasis on the contractors really abiding by our current zoning bylaw requirements. The changes to the licensing bylaw do that. What we've noted with respect to the changes to the zoning bylaw for driveway maximum widths is no changes at this point in time, but rather there is a comprehensive zoning bylaw review that is being completed. So really it's through that exercise staff's identified that the matter will be looked at. We will be considering potential improvements with respect to driveways and the maximum widths through that exercise. At this point in time, we've really identified that to complete an amendment to the zoning bylaw, the driveway widths in that respect, it would be a more fulsome initiative that would have to be completed now. These other matters, we wouldn't be able to proceed with as quickly. So we are recommending the various changes within the report here with respect to those changes to the licensing bylaw, the permit bylaw, the user fee bylaw to accommodate those, but no zoning changes at this time. Rather, those will be looked at through the comprehensive review.
So are we concerned having a walkway and a driveway because we worry about the water flow, mostly? That one of the, when it's all?
So through the chair, the current standards are actually set up with consideration for the walkway. So when these standards were put into place, the study looked at, can you generally park a car and then have
I'm asking about the water on the road, in the drains. It's one level. Are we worried about the water going there? Because we're always talking about so much water going in there.
Through the chair, if you can clarify that question. Yeah.
When we measure the walkway and the driveway, and it's so, if it becomes over 22 feet, are we worried because too much water is going into the road because of the drains? Is that one of the causes?
So the standards that were, through the chair, the standards are set up, as noted in the report, is to try to balance between the needs of the residents to park vehicles and also the need to create or continue to have attractive neighborhoods and to provide a certain amount of landscaping on the properties. So
the reason I'm asking is because what Al said, you have to have a step. How can you have a grate if your sidewalk's here and your driveway's level to your garage? And now I need a step to go onto my walkway. When it comes towards the sidewalk, you're gonna need a step to go there too. How are you gonna end up in the house? How are you gonna do Bramley area when the front door is level to come in? You're gonna create a step and go into your house, or you gotta go up?
through the chair, there's other ways of delineating between the driveway, what's defined as a driveway and what would be defined as a walkway through other installations, say as a permanently affixed planters, or there can be light fixtures or those sorts of things put into place. And it's often worked through that way, and those then do not allow vehicles to be parked on that other surface, and then it's not defined as being part of the driveway.
No, and I get the vehicle part. We keep talking about vehicle. If there's a vehicle, we give a ticket. I'm not here for the vehicle. I'm worried about, if this is a driveway, that's my walkway. If I have a vehicle there, yes, I'm wrong, you give a ticket. But we keep twisting things around it, from the water, to the curb, to the vehicle. It's got nothing to do on my parking. If I'm wrong, I get a ticket, just like parking on the grass. But we cannot use hoping someone's gonna go park on it. Now I got my driveway, nice concrete driveway, stamped heated, and I got the other side interlocking, and you're saying it's too wide. I don't park my car there. It's my walkway. I got a flower pot and I have a bench. So now you're gonna say I have to cut my driveway because I'm a little bit too wide. So now cutting mine, I'm gonna say, well, look across the street. There's 5 more. So we didn't really solve anything at the time. Unless we grandfather some driveways in, then, you know, it starts from today from permits, then I get it. But I don't see any fines here for the contractor. I don't see how much it costs, $50 to cut your curb. That was always there. I don't see what the permit's gonna cost. I don't see a fee from them to come here to pay to work on our city, the contractors.
So through the chair, paving contractors are required to have a license within the city of Brampton. We've enhanced the licensing bylaw to improve being able to charge them if they're operating without a license. The fee is kept at the same price as a curb cut for the residents, to encourage people to actually come and get a permit from the city, as opposed to making it onerous on them to making an application. And then the driveway permit allows charging against either contractor or the owner of the property.
How much is the fee to come here, me as a contractor, to come here to City Hall to pay for a fee, to work in the city?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the licensing fee is $190 a year.
Now, that's the fee to pay. If I go do a driveway, and I do it too big, and you're charging the residents, why are you gonna charge me? I'm still gonna take the guy's money and run. So it's not like Richmond Hill and Newmark and Aurora like I asked. You gotta give them a fine, $2,500, because our residents do not know the bylaws. The contractors do. They take the money and run, and the poor residents stuck with a problem.
So we
and
are
then we
able,
get all these problems. They have to go for minor variance. They have to go to committee, and none of them get approved anyway. So we're just making these people spend more money, and then we get yelled at here. That, you know, oh, they want my driveway cut for 6 inches or a foot.
So through Mr. Chair, understanding that, you know, with contractors that are completing works, you know, to widen driveways beyond the zoning bylaw requirements that don't go through, that won't be potentially going through our permit process. The way in which we can try to control that, minimize the extent to which contractors are maybe doing that is by ultimately revoking their permissions, their licensing that they would otherwise enjoy here to be able to work on driveways. So if it is found that ultimately they're not abiding by our rules, the revocation occurs.
You know, I appreciate all the work you guys done, but you cannot say, because I'll bet you, we go downstairs here in the last 3 years, no contractors pay the fee. And I know them all. Nobody pays here. They pay Richmond Hill, they pay Newmarket. So even if they don't pay, and if they do pay, and they still do a wide driveway, what are we gonna do to them? Nothing. They paid $170. They still walk away with people's money. And the residents still stuck with the problem. So we didn't really solve the problem.
Through Mr. Chair, the one thing that we're trying to do to really with the proposal that we've put forward is to identify on the city's website which contractors really do have permissions to work in the city of Brampton by way of having a license to work on driveways. So the hope there is that residents will be interested in knowing which contractors have that permission to work in the city, and they'll utilize those contractors, and that there is really a business sense that really gets applied, whereby there is some motivation on the part of the contractors to then abide by our rules.
On the property line, from where our shut-off valve is, that's a property line that we own. Anything close to the home, we're responsible from that out as a city. To have a legal driveway for a basement apartment, how far do you need a shut-off valve from the house or the closest in to that shut-off valve?
Sorry, just to confirm the question is, how deep between the shut-off valve and the house do you need to
To make
have
myself a legal basement apartment.
to have a legal-sized parking space to qualify for a basement apartment? That would be a 5.4 meter depth, which is the minimum depth for a parking space.
5.5 meters, that's 18. So my house has about 6.5 meters, built 1973. All the new homes are less than 3 meters. So that means all the basement apartments are illegal.
The
way we
minimum
do the
depth
bylaw.
to the
But
front-
they're using the driveway, right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, staff always confirm, by virtue of a survey, the depth of any parking space. If there is insufficient depth for a parking space, even though they may be capable of parking on it with a portion of the vehicle on the city boulevard, that would not qualify them to register a basement apartment. So yes, we do look for compliance with the zoning bylaw for every registration of a basement apartment to provide 3 full-size parking spaces. Reduced somewhat through council approval back in 2017, you've narrowed the parking space, but the depth of a car hasn't changed since that time.
Well, usually the shut-off valve is a property line, they use 3 meters, 3.5 meters. That's what the new homes are. And they use the city property to park on, just in the middle of the driveway or on the lawn. Oh, I see. And, the Groot is one of the roads right there. Like, they got no sidewalks, really, they're parking on our city, and the shut-off valve is like 3 meters away from the house. Right?
The shut-off valve, there's a minimum depth between the property line and the front face of a garage. The bylaw mandates a minimum of 6 meters. So there's always 6 meters between the front lot line and the front face of a garage. An additional parking space is usually provided where there's a single-car garage inside the garage. So that's the 2 required parking spaces for the development of any residential dwelling throughout the city. If they're looking to register a second unit, then they must be capable of providing a 3rd parking space on that property. If you have a 2-car garage, you have no problem, because you have at least 6 meters with 2 parking spaces to the front face of your garage, plus 2 additional parking spaces inside the garage. I agree that yes, many of the new homes have a porch that projects forward, closer to the front lot line than the garage would. So yes, there is limited potential for a 3rd parking space to be created where there's a single-car garage.
So what can we do with these driveways that were done 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago? No. Now, if the whole lawn is all full of concrete, no. But if they leave 40% green space, and they're off a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, how are we gonna go there and say, after 10 years, cut your driveway? You know?
So through you, Mr. Chairman, in instances where somebody has already widened their driveway and they don't meet the zoning bylaw and they want to pursue permissions just to confirm that what they have is legal and that's what they're pursuing, they have the ability to go through the minor variance process. So staff do look at those minor variances for driveway widenings and do sometimes find that yes, the driveway is acceptable, that there is a sufficient amount of landscaping as well so that it doesn't detract from the intended streetscape. So yes, there are many driveway widenings that staff find are really too wide, and we can't recommend to the Committee of Adjustment approval of those ones. But there are also driveway widenings that are done to really a modest degree that we find are appropriate.
You know, I just feel, I hate to hurt the people that have their driveway 10 years because this is not going to end now. So we didn't solve anything because if someone comes to my house and I say someone, look at the one across the street, why can't I complain on them? And then he complains, so it's just going to continue. So I was hoping someone had a driveway that's off a foot or 2 feet, and it was done 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and it leaves at least 40% of the green space of the grass. We can let it go and start these permits now and hold the contractor responsible $2,500 because they're the ones grabbing the money and run. So this is still going to continue the way we're doing it. Right?
Yep. Staff. Yep. Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to address a few things. I know, Councillor, that this particular report doesn't necessarily have the opportunity to speak to some of the items that you have concern with. And there are further processes that would be required in order to make changes to requirements for driveway widths, how to delineate parking versus walkways or or hard landscaping in general, that type of thing is done, through the zoning bylaw and would require actually a public process to go through and implement changes. This, which is outside of the scope of this report, but referenced in the report to say that some of these considerations can continue forward in some of the other work that the city is undertaking. The principal, delivery of this report is that permitting system. And what we're hoping to achieve through that permitting process is to give those homeowners the assurance that the contractor that they've hired has gone through the appropriate measures with the city to ensure that what they're proposing is compliant with the requirements of the city's bylaws. And what we're hoping there is to avoid costing the homeowner, as you've said, $30,000, $40,000 that they'll have to come back and tear out because they've hired somebody who didn't follow those rules. So that is the principal delivery. We're hoping that we can get our foot in the door to say, okay, we've got this list of reputable contractors who have gone through the process to get licensed. You, Mr. Homeowner, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, ensure that the contractor that you've hired has a permit in their hand to ensure that they've come to the city for the appropriate approvals and confirmed, the widths that are permitted, and that will at least avoid us going out and catching somebody after the fact to say, okay, I'm sorry that you've invested all this money, but now, you have a situation that's non-compliant. So yes, it doesn't necessarily capture all of the issues which you've brought up. That is true, but there are other steps, I guess, that are coming down the path that will help to alleviate some of those situations. One of those being, the comprehensive zoning bylaw review, which I know is a little ways out. Another being internal policies for prioritization of complaints to address those situations where you have somebody going around to neighborhoods in the area to pick out other driveways that have been widened. The city does have an obligation to take and consider those complaints, but we also have a fiscal responsibility to the residents to ensure that we are addressing the complaints as resources allow us to, and therefore we'd be prioritizing, those complaints which actually have a direct effect on the complainant or a neighboring property or a detrimental effect to the city. And so we would begin to prioritize how we address those complaints in that regard. And Elizabeth has already mentioned, I think, the illegal non-complying situations where you have a driveway that will have existed under a different set of rules through previous zoning provisions, and the introduction of these new provisions would not create or put those driveways into an illegal situation. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a broader picture of what this would achieve in the first step, knowing that there are additional measures that the city is undertaking to address some of the other concerns that you've raised.
So a lot of these problems are happening because there's no places to live in Brampton. People have no other where to go but going basement apartments. Because if you actually look out there to try to find some place to rent, you won't find anything besides basement apartments. So basement apartments now, they try, they got their family or they got their kids. They can't go anywhere. I can't afford it. So now you have the wife and this husband, and you end up with 4 cars. That's what the main problem is causing it. But that having the extra foot, it's not addressing the contractor. We're back where we started. And you cannot say they come to my house and I'm going to complain on that guy. I'm not going around the block. I'm just going to point across the street. You come on my street, I see 4 driveways wide. So if you come to my house, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I don't want to take mine, if you're going to, I say I have to cut mine, why can't we cut those? So it's back where we started. It's not going to solve any problem.
So may I suggest then, at this stage, I think there seems to be a disconnect with the mover of the motion and I guess the report here. We'll listen to Councillor Paleshi, but there might be opportunity, Councillor Fortini, if you would like either during the time before this gets presented at council to, if it gets passed, to consider it or think about.
I'm just going to add, I'll drop in, I'll let Councillor Paleshi. On Wednesday, I will go tomorrow to Richmond Hill and show you what it is to get a permit in Richmond Hill, what you have to fill in, and you need the contractor's name.
Or, thank you, Councillor Fortini, or you have the opportunity to defer this once again.
No.
I think it's about getting it right, so I'll leave that option. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that, I think we asked staff to go ahead and do something, and it's a very difficult task that we've asked for you to take on. I think that this is a good step in the right direction. Will it need to be tweaked one day? It may need to be tweaked one day. But I think the baby steps that were faced before us, I think, we're going in the right direction. So with the engagement that you requested from members of council in this report, the one question that you did receive from council, I believe, was mine on permeable pavers, and I thank you for acknowledging that. It is I that continues to talk about the water and the runoff into the system and not getting into the ground where it should be. Would I like to see more? Sure, I'd like to see more. It's just, unfortunately, right now, it's not the world we live in, but maybe one day we can make those changes, and engagement is a huge part of this, and this is only successful as much as we put into this engagement that you've identified in the report. So I look forward to that. I'm happy to move the report. And that was it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. The report is moved by Councillor Palashi. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Oh, and also receiving item 11.1. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We move on now to councillor question period. Any members of? Nope, I see there's no questions. Public question period. Are there any members of the public that would like to come forward and ask any questions? We have staff. Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I do recognize it's a little unorthodox for a member of staff to take the opportunity during the public question period, but I just wanted to say thank you for your patience and understanding over the last 3 months. It's certainly been a stretch for my skill set to step into the acting position of Commissioner of Planning and Development Services. But I did want to publicly take the opportunity to thank staff for their support, council for your support. It's been a fantastic ride, and I look forward to welcoming Richard Forward on board. And in particular, I know there were some challenging reports that came forward tonight, and I did want to recognize staff's contribution to those, the countless hours that were put into some of these reports. So I would be mistaken to not take the opportunity to thank staff for those efforts. So thank you.
Well, you're staying here.
I will be staying here through you, Chair.
No,
But back to Chief Building Official.
I thank you very much, and I echo those comments, and you've done a fantastic job over the last 3 months. I have 2 councillors on the board. Councillor Fortini.
I just want to thank everyone. And Rick, you did an amazing job, and I really appreciate when we called you called back and sent emails out and to the staff and everyone. And I'm hoping you could stay a little bit longer here and stay around, but you got your own department and it's running off. So thank you for the hard work you put in.
Okay, Councillor Santos.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I want to echo my colleagues' comments. Ricky did a fantastic job. It has not gone unnoticed, so thank you very much. And there were some challenging reports that came forward today. Thank you to all the staff who put that forward as well. But thank you to you, and I hope you are not leaving the city of Brampton.
Okay. Thank you. Items 13.1, correspondence from Downtown Brampton BIA, moved by Councillor Vicente. All in favor? Carried. And our last item of business is adjournment, moved by Councillor Dillon. Thank you, members. Our next committee meeting is June 3rd at 7 p.m. Have a good and safe night. Thank you.